Brookline, Vermont regular select board meeting to order. The time is 6:36 p.m. Present in the room are select board members Stan Noga, Bruce Mello, and myself, Dot Maggio. In the audience, we have our back TV rep, Josh Morelli. We have Mark Fills, our road supervisor, and Wynn Clark here as he has submitted a bid for one of our projects. Are there any changes to the agenda that the selectmen would like to see changed, modified at this time?
There are a number of small issues, but I can incorporate them into my grants scenario.
Okay, so no major changes at this time. Right now, we're gonna take a look at and review the minutes. We tabled the minute review for the August 3rd meeting because I hadn't read them, but I have now. So I'm going to go over the August 3rd, 2022 minutes at this time. Any changes on page 1 of 5? Sam?
Yes, under E, review, approve, it's not waste policy, it's local hazard mitigation plan.
And in the same sentence, you got the. I think it's the same sentence.
Can you repeat that, please?
Okay,
Yeah, that's.
so is that,
Yes, on E, page 1 of the August 3rd minutes. The item under letter E as an elephant. The word waste and policy should be removed and replaced, and the sentence presented as follows. Review, approve, local hazard mitigation plan.
Oh, that was on the agenda. I got it.
Well, unfortunately, there was a plan we were talking about as opposed to a policy.
So below that in the sentence, it'll say, probably referring to the Westminster hazardous waste policy. Is that?
That word in the second sentence ought to also be plan instead of policy. Because it was a plan submitted to Wyndham Regional that was being discussed and that Westminster had sent us. So you caught something I didn't.
So their plan is called the Westminster Hazardous Waste Plan?
Correct.
Okay.
They may have a separate policy, but what we had been engaged with and asked by Wyndham Regional to review, as well as Westminster, was their local hazard mitigation plan.
And it says the twice. So referring to the Westminster Hazardous Waste Plan is not what it says.
Well, it should be again, hazard mitigation plan, Westminster
Hazard mitigation.
Look, yeah,
Got the.
Okay.
an actual local, like it is in the title, local hazard mitigation plan.
Is that the same sentence that have the?
So
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
just say, I suggest possibly referring to Westminster's plan. And just let them name it what they want.
Yeah, that refers back to the title. That's a good idea, Peter.
Okay, so be it.
And Mr. Mello has pointed out the fact that in the second line of number E, there's two these, THEs, so one
Yes,
can be.
I just mentioned that. I nailed them.
okay,
I got something else on
page 1.
Oh, Peter, up the top of the RFP, the heart is not H-A-R-T, it's H-A-R-T-E. Page 1.
Okay,
Okay,
Mr.
which
Hart.
RFP are we talking about here?
Okay, under RFP discussion for electrical needs for heat pump installation, the gentleman's name is Mr. Hart, H-A-R-T-E.
Oh, got it. Okay, doke.
For that.
Anything on page 2 of 5?
No.
Nope,
Anything on page 3 of 5?
yes.
Page 3 of 5, Mr. Noga.
Let's see here.
I just need a keyword.
This is one of those where I could have goofed in my statement, but under B, highways, where the paragraph begins, after the word subsequent in line 1, I should have said, and I didn't say, if I didn't say it, then I'm wrong in telling you, but I had written in here after reviewing it, the word potential increases.
Oh,
And after
Okay.
the word increases, I think you can scratch out the word to and insert the word approximately 403,132, because we have no way of knowing what the actual number is. And I more than likely said about or approximately, so I think that would take away the aspect of me saying it's definitively that amount.
do we need to put an
And
amount
also
there? Why don't we
eliminates,
just say potential increases? Of which?
well,
I think we need the amount.
there,
All right,
there's a
is it-
reason that probably it's not obvious where that dollar amount should be there.
All right, a potential increases to 403, et cetera, or of 403, et cetera?
Potential increase of approximately 403.
Of 403, 132.
Yeah, that's not right either. Now I'm thinking about it.
You
I'm
want to be
sorry,
to
Peter,
approximately.
it should say approximately up to, or up to approximately 403,132.
Okay,
Because the increase itself is not 403,000. The end resulting number, because of potential and likely potential increases, ends up being 403,132.
right, so potential
And that
increases
number
up
is
to
one that tells
approximately.
people. Yep. Thank you, Peter.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else on page 3?
Yes, I think so. I believe. I'm not gonna, I'm not even bother. One of them. I can't read my own writing here, and then I'm looking at E. Mrs. Maggio discussed the deputy health officer appointment and notifying the state. There was discussion of the process of appointment and the possibility that the
Previous health officer was still in office. David did not officially resign.
okay, then I'll cancel that correction as well. There was something in my mind that I needed to get to, but it's apparently so insignificant that I can't recall what it is at the moment. Sorry.
Okay,
Anything else on page 3? Now we'll move to page 4. Bruce, you have a question on page 4?
At the top of the page, you hurt my feelings here. Brookline's not capitalized.
Oh, first sentence, for Brookline as requested, just a capitalization.
That's all.
Anything else on page 4?
Yes, under Peter Meyer, halfway down the page, where we were talking about a mode area, if you could
Mhm.
cross out the area and put mode BMH lawn without notification.
okay,
And then down below under communications, the sentence that starts out with Mr. Noga discussed sources of town website domain information.
Town, website, domain. Okay,
Thank you. That's all for me.
Anything on page 5? Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting the minutes from August 3rd as amended signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Okay, we're going to
no,
now.
I'm sorry, but I lost the, who moved and who seconded.
Oh, okay, I made a motion to approve the minutes as amended. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Stan. Any other discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes as amended, for August 3rd, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed unanimously. At this time, I'd like to review the minutes from the August 17th regular select board meeting. Any changes on page 1 of 6? I have one. Under new business, opening the RFP bids. It says there was discussion, and it should say $7,000 increase, not 7.000, $7,000 increase.
Oh, it needs a comma and not a period. Got it. Good eye.
Correct.
Gotta move it over.
Right. And I would also like to amend letter B, open the RFP bids, where I said there was no sand sample. The sample was provided, it was found after the meeting on the desk, so. Sample provided. Any other changes on page 1 other than the 2 that I pointed out? Any changes on page 2 of 6?
Yes.
Stan?
Under old business, A, ARPA. The third paragraph down, it starts with Ms. Maggio noted research on other needs for ARPA funds. And the next several words, 27,000 for highway. We could insert between highway and salaries, retention. So it's highway retention salaries.
Okay,
And then on the next line, there was reference to an ARPA rebate.
yeah,
And I'm not sure where that came from, but ARPA does not indicate or give rebates. There must have been another program where rebates are anticipated.
Green Mountain Power or energy efficiency of Vermont?
Green Mountain Power for $97
Green Mountain Power rebate. GMP.
GMP.
So cross out
Got it.
ARPA and put GMP.
Got it.
All right, thank you. Good catch on that.
And then fourth paragraph from the bottom. Mr. Noga discussed the original loan and payment schedule. The word loan is to be crossed out and replaced with the word bond, B-O-N-D.
Oh,
Got it. Original bond and payment schedule. Now, from your speaking, it sounds like you want a struck out version. I have not been striking anything out. Would you like the thing to say loan with a strikeout?
Well, the word loan, if it was said, was completely in error. And I usually, so I don't know if I actually used the word loan. If I did, it's incorrect. But I should have, and most likely would have used the word bond, B-O-N-D. Because
Okay.
Yep.
I have never been asked to put a struck out word in anything. So we'll just do what we always do and correct it.
That's what I'm asking you to do. When I say
Got
strike loan, what I mean is delete it.
Okay.
And I will use the word delete from here on out.
okay, good, good, good. Okay. Anything else on page 2? Any items on page 3 of 6? Anything on page 4 of 6? Anything on page 5 of 6? Anything on page 6 of 6? Hearing none. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the August 17th select board meeting as amended. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Bruce Mello. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes from August 17th as amended, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Last but not least, August 31st, emergency meeting minutes, 1 page. You don't have it, I'll be making any corrections, Peter, because I typed it up. Does anybody have anything to amend on minutes from the emergency meeting on August 31st? Perfect, Peter, see?
Good.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to accept the emergency meeting minutes as presented for August 31st. May I have a second?
Second.
All right, seconded by Bruce. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes from the meeting on emergency meeting on August 31st, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Okay, at this point, we're gonna open our bids. The first one will be the work for Hill Road. This is a bid for ditching and draining improvements on Hill Road between 277 and 295 Hill Road. The project includes ledge, stump, and fill removal as needed to provide a ditch 24 inches below the road surface. 48-inch ditch stone shall be placed to shape the ditch, and disturbed areas shall be seeded and mulched. And rest is the legal lingo. And so we have I'll give you that Hill Road one. This one was came in email, and this one. This is Parker Road. I'm just gonna open this in case there are two bids in one envelope.
Could I have the name of the submitter?
And yeah, we'll admit it. The bids, yes. Hold on. I'm just making sure it's. We received 2 bids for the work on Hill Road. Mr. Mel, you wanna read this one? Second page, that's.
Okay, it comes from Brennan Construction, BRENNAN. Address.
Sure.
They're out of Saxons River, Vermont. It's P.O. Box 571. 3 River Street. Saxons River, Vermont. 05154. And the bid is for Brookline, Vermont, ditching and drainage. Dated 9/5.
Bid about?
The bid is to create stone line ditch along the uphill side of Hill Road between 277 and 295 Hill Road. It includes ledge, stump, and fill removal. Notes: all material removed from site is to be deposited at the town garage or gravel pit unless otherwise negotiated. Total cost $28,500.
Would you say the number again, please?
$28,500.
How many?
28,000.
28. Thank you. 500.
28,500.
All right, and Mr. Noga, you have the second bid for the Hill Road?
Yes, bid is dated 9/5/22 and it indicating the area of concern is between 277 and 295 Hill Road. It says we bid $19,900 to remove. I'm gonna need some deciphering here. Is that bumps of ledge or clumps of ledge? Humps of ledge, stump and fill to provide a ditch 24 inches below road surface. Place 4-inch to 8-inch ditch stone in ditch. all disturbed areas seeded and mulch. Provide 2 flaggers and signage to maintain one-way traffic through work area. Signed by Mr. Wynn Clark.
All right, we have 2 bids for the work on Hill Road. One is for $28,500, and the second one is for $19,900, which is $8,600 lower than the initial bid. I'm going to make a motion and we can discuss this, okay?
Okay.
I'm gonna make a motion that we accept the low bid from A.S. Clark and Sons for the price of $19,900. May I have a second on my motion?
Yes.
Seconded by Bruce Mello. And following discussion, any discussion?
Yes, Wynn. Back when Mark and I were with the gentleman from Wyndham Regional, I seem to have a recollection that you had, A.S. Clark that is, had bid on a repair of that stretch of road. That was significantly less than this, roughly 12 months ago. Is there a reason why it went from that amount to this amount?
Very good reason. It's because Mark was gonna provide an excavator to dig the ledge out at right hand. And also the town was gonna provide fibers. Traffic.
Okay,
In other words, we were gonna work together with Mark and everybody.
okay. That answers the question.
Original bid was for hammer and.
Yeah.
I can't remember if they were gonna supply an excavator or what, so. That's the difference.
And I should probably note for the record that A.S. Clark did provide an updated certificate of insurance dated 9/2/2022.
There was also a certificate of insurance for Brenham contractors. Any further discussion? I didn't make note that this is a Brenham aid project that we had submitted for assistance from Wyndham Regional,
That
correct?
is correct.
So this will be even more efficiently covered.
Yeah, the only, I guess, other comments, I'm sitting here thinking, am I missing anything? What do you expect the deadline for the completion of work to be?
Well, it says the 22nd. Right,
Of
September,
September.
September, okay.
Right.
Okay.
right?
Okay,
2 weeks, apparently Mr. Alan Mays had said it goes over a couple days. But we're gonna try to achieve that goal.
yeah, I had contacted Wyndham Regional and said that it's kind of short term to get it all done. And I had concerns because what if we had rain or significant storm, whatever, and you're right. Jeff Nugent of Wyndham Regional said they would help us out in terms of being flexible on completion, so that jives. Good,
What are
thank
you
you.
expecting to get from the regional?
It's like $6,000.
Yeah, $6,700.
A little less than 30.
Further discussion? Here none. I've made a motion, it's been seconded, it's been discussed. I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor of awarding the bid for the work on Hill Road, as stated, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. The bid has been awarded then to A.S. Clark and Sons. If you'll put on that form, accepted on that form.
On the
and
bid itself?
On the bid itself.
I'm sorry, who seconded the motion?
Me.
Bruce Mello,
Thank you.
before discussing it, he seconded the motion. All right, well, thank you. We're gonna move on to the next bid.
Thank you, Lynn.
Okay. All right, at this time, the town of Brookline requests for proposal. The town of Brookline is requesting bids for stream bank repairs along Parker Road caused by the July 29th flooding. The area of the stream bank is approximately 60 feet long, 7 feet high. The existing riprap must be removed and replaced with a stacked toe slope at least 4 feet high. And existing stone may be reused on the road surface. All interested bidders shall contact, and goes on with the rest of the paperwork. The request that the sealed bids are received by September 7th, and the project completion date would be October 1st, 2022. So let's take a look at our current bids. We have Parker Road. Parker Road and Parker Road. All right.
Great, huh? Yeah.
I'm gonna read the first one.
Right again.
I have in front of me a bid proposal from Wright, WRIGHT Maintenance Inc., 151 Vermont Route 30, New Fane. It's for the Parker Road. It's the stream bank repairs on Parker Road. And the
You said right, Joe, right?
Joseph Wright,
Okay.
RIGHT, and he is supplied the certificate of insurance, and as per the bid, he's following that. His bid price is $7,365. $7,365 for Parker Road, Joe Wright. Bruce, what do you have?
My bid is from Brennan Construction again. $19,500. Again, it also includes a certificate of insurance.
Okay. Mr. Noga?
Yes, this bid is from A.S. Clark and Sons, dated 9/5/22 for the location of Parker Road. It says, remove existing rip wrap and save, build stacked toe wall at least 4 foot high and replace existing rip wrap. We bid $2,750 to do this project, and signed by Win Clark. And again, another certificate of liability, insurance liability dated 9/2/22.
That number is $2,750?
Yeah, it's a period between 27 and 50, but I don't think he means 2750. I think he means $2,750.
All right, so we have three bids. A.S. Clark and Sons for $2,750, Brennan Construction $19,500, and Wright Construction $7,365. I'm gonna make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that we accept the low bid at our preferred vendor, A.S. Clark and Sons, for the work on Parker Road in the amount of $2,750. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Stan. Now, discussion. Any further discussion?
What is the completion date of this? Is it close to the advertised date in the paper?
Yeah, I think it was up for.
Must be completed, it works in the stream.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting the lowest bid from our preferred vendor, A.S. Clark and Sons, for $2,750 for the work on the Parker Road project, signify by saying aye. Aye. Let it be known, it was a unanimous, all were in favor. If you can write accepted on that proposal. And we might not accept it on these two. Great, fabulous. Well, thank you very much for we opened everything, right?
To accept it.
Okay. I just put this off for after the meeting on.
Doc, you want to,
None of these other.
do you want to wait for that?
Have a good night. Said Archie.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Members of the public, 1 hour, DB fiber representatives, town buildings, and open discussion from other residents.
You want to just, they pick out of that numbers of the phone. Is he not here?
Is he online?
He's supposed
Is
to,
he John? No, it's not here.
Dan Stewart.
he's supposed to be coming.
So shall we,
So did you want
did you want to start to talk about, would you like to, or would you rather wait? Okay, you would rather wait. We can move down to town buildings. Our support, we have Leanne Parker here, representing the Brookline Meeting House. And we will talk with her first. We're just switching the agenda items. So, okay, Leanne.
Yeah,
As you know, I'm just gonna review very quickly of what ARPA is. It is a federally government subsidized program that helps to support public health expenditures. It addresses the negative economic impacts caused by the public health emergency known as COVID-19. It may replace lost public sector revenues, provide premium pay for essential workers, and invest in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. In addition to direct government services, ARPA will allow cities to invest in infrastructure and launch programs to support workers and small businesses. ARPA provides state and local governments with the resources to stabilize their operating budgets, and many governments incurred large deficits in 2020 as the economic slowdown hurt tax revenues, and local governments assumed significant pandemic-related costs. To remedy this imbalance, many systems pared back essential services. First responders, sanitation workers, planning personnel, and other governmental employees faced hour reductions in furloughs and other government cutbacks on contracts with agencies. So the funding has been allocated to Brookline. It is an amount of $300 per resident. And I believe we just got, I haven't checked, I think we just got the second amount, our ARPA funding, and I don't have that number in front of me.
$25,000 plus, I think.
She's talking about.
Altogether.
Altogether, it was like 150,000.
Approximately 160,000, I'm gonna say.
79 twice, 158.
The total,
You have it? Was it 79 twice?
yeah, $79,219.05 twice. So you're looking at $158,500 inside there.
Okay, so approximately $158,000 is what Brookline itself has received. And so,
Well, we will receive, I'm not sure we got the larger one yet, have we? They come in two.
They come in
lots, one, I
they
think.
come in 2 packets,
Okay.
correct? So it's anticipated shortly. Welcome, Steve and John. I'm gonna, we skipped over doing, oh, he's here. I thought you were
Yeah.
on. Well, we're gonna
I'm
introduce,
the map, man.
we're gonna introduce Leanne, so we're gonna let Leanne go first, if you don't mind. Okay. So I just explained what the funding is and how it's used, and I know that our building has some needs for it, so we'd just like to make a presentation. And
I
Stan?
have a question. Leanne, are you here for ARPA or are you here to go over the RFP estimate for the foundation?
I'm here for ARPA.
You are, okay.
Okay.
Right. So,
Okay.
I don't know, I don't really have a presentation, all I can recount is that you and I had a conversation about how the select board is extremely supportive of things going on at the meeting house. And in looking at our budget and at the demands that we have coming up. I.e. the foundation repair. You had thought that there might be some funds that you could move over into the meeting house pocket.
Appropriate.
Right, appropriate, so that we never fall below, so we always have around $15,000 in the bank. That's the way I understood.
That's why I presented it.
Right. Right,
Through.
and so I'm here to say that I think it's great. We're in the middle of this grant proposal for doing repair on the foundation. And the Vermont Historical, I'm sorry, the
Conservation Trust?
No, it's not Preservation
Oh,
Trust.
it's not.
It's the Vermont Department of Historical Preservation.
Preservation, right.
Right, so
She must-
we're in the middle. No,
That's what you did.
no, we've always done that.
You have 2 entities, the
Right.
one, historic preservation and the other one.
Right, we're going after the
You're going to You're going to after one, the historic preservation.
Right, and the one that also that was applied for the belfry and the balustrade
Right.
work that we won that back in 2017, we got that award. So we're going back now for the foundation for them. Okay, and it's
That's different than the one we get for the round school.
right, okay,
Has.
So this is the historic preservation group.
Yes.
This, the Brookline Meeting House Committee Chair, Leanne Parker, is here describing the work the committee is, the grant work that is being applied for to do foundation repairs and looking for appropriations from ARPA to help meet the grant match.
Yes, got
Right.
that.
very well said.
Just wanted to get
Very well
the names right. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Parker, can you spell your first name?
Sorry?
L-E-E.
L-E-E, and then
A-N.
middle name Ann, A-N-N-E.
What's your middle name?
Good, thank you.
Leanne,
Yes,
have they been called, to ask them if that would be covered under historic preservation?
yeah, Caitlin is on vacation, but she did get back to me through text, and I also found this, what work is eligible for funding here, and it mentions.
Okay.
The work,
Organization too, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
we're in good shape.
Additions, electrical, plumbing, heating projects, weatherization. It's this foundation.
I think we can-
I believe it.
I have a copy here, I can look at it.
While you're looking at that, I will share that it's a very active committee, I'm glad to be on it.
Oh, so if you say what work is eligible, the first point, work on a failed structural component such as the building's frame, foundation, or roof.
There's that.
The first bullet point on the page,
Do one,
what work is eligible for
here it
funding?
is.
Okay,
We,
all right, super.
Okay, so we're fine, and I also got heard back from Caitlin, and she said, yes, we fund foundation. So, it'd be great to have this as a cushion, not necessarily to use, I just wanted to bring to the select board's attention that I ran some numbers. And the fundraising has been pretty strong for the meeting house, so since 2019 fundraising time, which was November, December 2019, to current, we have raised over $27,000.
the 10,000 and all the other,
When to when?
please God.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear from when to when.
From the beginning of the fundraising campaign in 2019 until basically current. And I can break it down for you if you're interested.
No, that's pretty good.
That's fabulous.
Yeah, no, congratulations.
So that's
So we,
17,000 over and above the cover.
right. There was an excellent fundraising year last 2020, 2021. And that's also including the $5,000 from the Cleveland Foundation that came in, the $3,000 from SHOP, right, for the windows. And the only grant that we had gotten since then was the $3,000 from the Wyndham Foundation to go
Back
towards
when?
the no, just recently to go for
Wyndham
the
Foundation
flashing, for the flashing work.
Wyndham Foundation came through again, because
Yeah.
they did it for the windows back when.
Oh, yes, yeah, this is the second time. I submitted a grant in 2019 to both the historic preservation and to the Wyndham Foundation. Wyndham Foundation gave us 3,000. Historic preservation basically said no, rejected it. They shared the scores with us, and there was a certain amount of, the largest deduction was community participation. Not by a lot, but by some. So we've done a lot more in the last 2.5 years. So I'm hoping that that will help pull us into the running. We're asking for 15,000. We're estimating the job will be somewhere around 30,000. So, but we won't find out until the spring. And so we have a number of things on our plate that we're looking at. For additional expenses, we're looking at storm window expense. Remember, from the last meeting, coming out of our budget.
Washing and mold removal.
Right, carpet possibly. So, you know, there's things on our list besides the foundation that we would like to be able to kind of move along with.
But that just about completes Jan's list.
That completes Jan's list, and I'm on board with a woman, Jenna, and I cannot pronounce her last name, it starts with an L. She's going to assign us someone like Jan Lewandowski, possibly him, possibly somebody else, and get us on the calendar for this fall, later on this fall, to start working up the next points along the line. Which will be ADA, mold removal, you know, and you know, there's, the list goes on and on. But
How much did we get out of the fundraiser for Exit 1?
Welcome center.
the total amount
Excellent.
was 1,600 and some, but we shared that with Athens Meeting House.
Is there a reason why we did that?
Yeah, we did that because there's several reasons. One is that I didn't have this in mind at the time, but one of the points on the historic preservation grants that they like to see is networking and what we're doing in order to. So joining with the Athens Meeting House Committee, sharing information about vendors, workmanship, you know, what we can do better that other people that they have had experience with that we haven't, and vice versa. So we made basically I called it BAMA, which is short for Brookline Athens Meeting House Association or something or other. But we're gonna meet like quarterly and continue to share. They're doing a huge window project right now. If they want a grant, it's a $90,000 job. That they're redoing all the windows in the Athens Meeting House. So there's a lot of benefits to be working with them, but it was also a show of faith that we can work on fundraisers together. We agreed that we would share profits. They were wonderful help.
But you're talking about that in some conjunction to show historic preservation that we're.
Right, but that's another side of it, that we are, you know, reaching outside the community and trying to build alliances.
Well, Leanne, thank you so much for coming today. Today we're sort of absorbing this information and certainly, you know, keep you
Right.
aware of what's going on.
Right, and I might jump back on when I get home. to
Okay.
listen to
Thanks
the
for
other
this.
presentations. Sure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, have a great night. All right, next we will have our DV fiber representatives, Stephen John and Don Deneen that are both here. I did not get to put it up online, but I did print out, I know they're kind of killing a tree here. But they will be in our files for other people to look at. We would like for you to explain a little bit about your program so that it gets in our minutes, so that residents can understand this. I will say that when the first reach out from the DV Fiber Consortium came across our desk, we had different people who volunteered to sit on it, but realized it was a very time consuming and involved process. We're very grateful for Don for stepping up and helping out, representing Brookline. In it, we have, as we said, about 350 homes, about 500 residents in town. And we do have some areas that are underserved, but not as much as I thought. I think if you did some research, you could tell us a little bit more about the surveys and time frames and timelines and such. That would be great. I don't know who would like to speak first.
Okay, we're back. Well, thank you very much. I'm Stephen John. All of you from my past practices with
Stan Noga and
Yeah,
Bruce Bell.
and I was really happy to hear Leanne's talk. meeting house. 'Cause I know that-
Sorry, could I ask for a little bit better microphone?
Do you wanna sit on it?
Yeah, and
We're working on it.
That's underneath the shade here. Huh?
Sit on
You can sit here, he'll do
All right, Peter, I'm glad you brought that up.
Very efficient.
How about now, Peter? Can you hear you? Hear me?
Yes, that's better.
All right. I
Thanks.
hope this. Okay, I'll use my playground voice, right?
You got it.
All right. Yeah, where was I? Oh, well, anyway, that meeting house, because I know the school and the property for the meeting house, Stan really worked a lot on that, I think, in terms of getting that all line. You know, anyway. There was some,
sorry, can I quickly ask? I'm sorry, can I
Yeah.
quickly ask? It's sometimes hard to follow. So we're looking at different proposals for ARPA investments, right? And it's not a
We're
decision
looking at,
meeting today, but just like what ideas do residents and other stakeholders have, correct?
that is correct, we're here to hear the educational learning for us from the people who might ask for appropriations from this
I
ARPA
gotcha.
funding. That we
Okay.
use it to the best of our abilities, thank you.
Okay, that's
Thank
helpful.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan, for getting me back on target. Okay, so I'm representing DB Fiber. That is the Deerfield Valley Communications Union District. That was an act that was opportunity for towns to join together to provide high-speed internet to those who have not been connected up to now through the private sector. This is a public entity. It's a unique entity, communications union district. If you think about it like a water district or a fire district, to combine towns to take care of that particular need. The communications union district is meeting the need of reaching those and connecting those, basically bridging the digital divide, which is apparent in most of our towns. There are some people that, no matter how much money they have, because of where they live, they're not going to be able to get connected. And that's because we don't have a population density in our towns, in all regions, parts of our towns, that justify the private sector's investment, such as Comcast, Consolidated Communications. So that was why the legislature enacted Act 71 and enabled towns to join together. You had to have at least 2 towns. We started out with 5. We voted at town meeting in 2019, and that was the beginning of this CUD. We now have 24 towns. Brookline joined later on. I don't have it memorized about how the sequence came, but at any rate, they're all contiguous towns. They're all next to each other. We don't have Athens. We don't have Rockingham joined. Those are the primary towns that have not joined in our county, and that's because they're served by fiber from Vita out of Springfield. I know that they talked to me, but there's no reason for them to join. We go all the way up to Weston. That's in Windsor County, and we go all the way down to Stamford in the south, and then we go straight across the border. Stamford's in Bennington County. That's why you never heard of it. Stamford, Reedsboro, and Bennington County. Then you go to Whitingham, Halifax, Guilford, Vernon. All those towns are going, and going up the
That far down.
24 towns, going all the way up the river, Connecticut River to Westminster. So, and Putnam's your neighborhood, and town, of course, and Brookline. I mean, a new thing. And well, anyway, so what's unique about this is that this is, as it says in this PowerPoint, toward the end, actually, just to summarize, burden you a lot of detail here, but just to summarize, the whole point of this is that we are a DB Fiber, the people's internet, owned by the citizens of the 24 towns and governed by the representatives appointed by their select boards. That's why Don has been serving on our operations committee. I do thank you for his appointment. It's been wonderful, wonderful asset, and he has a technical perspective, I think, to contribute to this project invaluably. And we do have a wonderful collection of people appointed from various towns, but we also have volunteers who are not appointed, and we also are serving on committees, and we have also alternates from each town. I don't think we have an alternate
No,
from
not
Brookline, but consider your population, I think what it might be the case. But those alternates also serve on our committees, and it's 50 to 60 volunteers that are doing this right now. We have now just recently hired on a contract basis as a consultant, our new executive director from Guilford, and her name is Gabrielle Giuffrida. She's actually a former attorney. I think she's pricing an attorney now, but at any rate, very, very capable. She put together a great historic, talking about the meeting house, a great historic preservation combination improvement of the Putnam block, which is where Route 7 and Route 9 cross in Bennington. If you've ever been to Bennington, there's an old hotel, big building. I think that was a big project, and she worked for Stevens Associates and so forth, and architects. So we think we have a really capable leader now. We have had a wonderful project leader who's going to continue as long as necessary. He was a retired consultant from New York City, who lived in Halifax, and he was first our clerk and then took on this project management. David Jones is his name, from Halifax. However, neither of those people have a voting position on the board. It's the 24 appointed represented by the towns. Now, I think I went through this before, but the risk to the town is nothing. If this project goes belly up, hard to believe at this point, we just got 21.9 million, but if we went belly up, we would, the law determines that the assets would be taken over by the state, and then they would be decided what to do in bankruptcy. But there's no burden on the towns, and we have no right, no reason to ask for any tax money at all. I'm actually here not so much asking for Deerfield Valley Communications Union District, but for those citizens in your town who may have financial difficulty connecting to the service of high-speed internet fiber. We estimate across the state that 10 to 12% of residents are financially strapped, basically. They would qualify for subsidy by the FCC. And the FCC has a program. It's, I think it's based on below 200% of the poverty level. The thing that is interesting when you follow up in your own discussions about this is to what extent you know Brookline and can ascertain or estimate more accurately than a spreadsheet that I share with you, copies that are here, of the need. But just to put in a context, we have already received and pretty much invested entirely and spent $4.1 million grant for organizing, legal services, and planning, and also pre-construction planning, such as surveying the poles. They call it a ride out, preparing the poles and all that. So now we're going to be at the construction stage almost immediately. We'll start probably hanging fiber in October because we're working with Green Mountain Power, and we have to get a permit for the space on the pole, and they have to ride out with us to see if the pole can take it. Sometimes poles have to be replaced. We have permits out now for 12,000 poles, and that's not the whole project quite yet, because we are doing this in phases. But you can imagine there's 24 towns. We have a design, universal design. That means universal design means it's capable of connecting every single E911 location in our 24 towns. And that is actually a requirement of the Vermont Community Broadband Board, who's the 5-person board dispersing the funds available to support this project. However, the funds and the grant is directed to connecting those unserved and underserved locations in the town. And of course, to get there, you can't fly in by helicopter by fiber. So you got to have it follow the power lines, and that's the right of way we have. We have access to the power line right away. So if you're on the grid, then you have a right to be connected, and you will be connected, because the plan enables you to be connected to our fiber network. Publicly owned, yes.
Stephen, so the only reason why you would add poles would be chose twofold. Service, putting in a spot where it's not being served. And if the poles that are existing can't handle.
Right.
What's.
The good news is Greenmont Power replaces the poles, and they pay for the poles, because they gotta replace poles anyway. It's kind of a spring cleaning effort for them in a way, so we have this project going on. But I haven't heard anything too bad about your pole, what they call the plant. The worst locations are really in Halifax and Marlborough and so forth, because Greenmont Power inherited those from Halifax at Co-op first, and then they went to Vermont, Central Vermont Public Service, and then it went to Greenmont Power. So anyway, we're getting into many details. But I did want to explain that the grant money goes for us to build to those places, and it is not to necessarily compete with the people that are already well served. I mean, compete for their business, that is directly. Now we have to go, the plan is in Brookline, we got to come up right away to get to the people that are not connected. So we're going to be, we're going to be hanging fiber. And that fiber is capable and it's open to the public to have the access. So it's not that people are prohibited from using it, but we can't spend grant money. If you live close to the roads, I don't know if you live close to the road here, but okay, so who lives close to the road here? Okay, you live close to the road. Are you within 400 feet?
Yes, yes.
Probably. Okay. Well, it's likely, although it hasn't been voted finally by the board yet, but it will be this month later on. We'll probably have a free connection, 400 feet, aerial or underground.
So can I ask real quick, Stephen? This is very interesting. So I'm understanding that basically what you would do is put fiberglass lines on the electricity poles, right, and then connect houses this way. Yeah. And do you have data how many Brookline residents currently do not have internet?
Yeah, I do. What premises? What is it?
We have
From the start there.
there's a total of 319 premises, of which 23 are either unserved or underserved. And I think underserved is, what is it?
Like 4.1, you know anything about the numbers on the internet? There's a certain fiber, there's a megabits per second down and a megabits per second up.
Right.
4
Okay.
megabits per second down. Well, this is considered unserved. Hang on. We're going to follow with Don striking one. 4.1 is 4 down and 1 up. And if you have that, you probably can't do any Zoom or any, kind of meeting thing like this.
Yeah, so that's your definition of underserved.
That's
Basically.
unserved. That's unserved.
Unserved. Okay. Okay.
Underserved. Underserved is a standard of 23 down and 3 up. Now I pay for 25, sorry, 26, 25 and 3. I pay for 25.3 at my house. I don't get it. But that's because the contract fine print says up to. And if there are more people connected on a copper line, it goes down. It keeps going down. You just can't maintain a copper line. Now I think a lot of your residents are here served by cable, so you don't have that copper line dependency entirely. And but cable is limited unless they improve the cable, and in fact Comcast could hang fiber as well, and they want to spend the money. But the cable is limited to 100 down and 20 up. That is scientifically, not that you necessarily get that from the older cable is even less, but new cable. Okay, so so the question before you regarding ARPA, and I've consulted with Kate up at VLTC to make sure I had this right. There are towns that have already committed money to connect to help connect those residents who may not qualify. They may be farther away than the 3 connection limit. The standard connections.
Beyond the 400.
Beyond the 400. So that's an additional expense.
So how many people?
And so that's the question. It stands to be way farther than 400. But that's something that we can estimate by satellite when we get closer to the actual situation, but I don't have that satellite data here for you. We are now engaged in a project to go to everyone's premises and to actually ascertain what the cost would estimate, what the cost would be for that customer. Because we want, if you called up 2 months, 2 years from now or whatever, want to get connected, you gave your number, your 911 address, we'd want to know, DB Fiber would want to know when they answer the call, what it'll cost. You know, they want to tell you straight up if you're a standard, free connection, or it's going to cost you probably $1.50 a foot past 400 feet, something like that. It'll cost something. I mean, it's not. I really don't want to be quoted on those numbers too carefully because my board has not yet voted on approving this. You're kind of getting an insight.
So yeah, I had that question too, Stephen. How expensive would it be to get a glass fiber connection then, in this model? Can you estimate that? Let's say one of these. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Dan. Well, where is your how far are you away from the present power pole? You get electricity at your house?
Yes. Yeah. No, I'm just trying to understand what the value would be.
The thing is, we can't go to a place that doesn't get electricity. Yeah. So now you're asking about the price. I can't estimate the cost now. I believe it's going to cost about $1.50 a foot for the distance farther than 400 feet.
For the infrastructure, right? To lay the lines.
To install the fiber.
My question was for the end user, when I'm now getting internet via that new infrastructure, via the community-based grid, essentially, which I think is a great idea, by the way. How expensive or how affordable is it in the end? Right now I'm getting internet with Comcast for $40 a month. Is it competitive from an economic standpoint?
Well, I don't know what you're paying. I don't know what the circumstances are, but I did want to point out that our board has adopted a customer accessibility and affordability policy. And we are determined as a publicly owned entity to be certain that not only are we able to connect everybody, but that it is accessible, not only accessible, but affordable to everybody. Now, you asked for specific about the price. It'll be in tiers, probably 3 tiers of service. We will be able to provide, the design of our plan is to provide 100 to 100, 500 to 500, a gigabyte, 2 gigabytes. The limit will be on your end with your equipment at the home. The limit won't be on our end in terms of life. Of course, there'll be an incremental fee for the increased bandwidth. But one of the challenges that we face as a public board with this policy is that we've got to figure out how to raise the money to enable people to pay the monthly fee. And I'm not here for that today. I don't think that's something the town should take on. I'm here today to make sure that everybody gets connected. And one thing that the towns can do to help DB Fiber get everybody connected is to allocate some ARPA money, which, by the way, we're considered not a sub-recipient, but a beneficiary, just for the legal part of it, you might want to know.
And basically what your proposal is that it's the proposal in a nutshell is that the fiberglass will have expandable bandwidth, right, for better scale, and then everybody can get connected without creating a bottleneck. That's kind of the proposal. Is that correct?
That's right. Well, yes, you're correct, Dan. In fact, ours is designed to be 10 gig. So the capacity is really of our design is really future proof in a way.
It's future proofing. You got it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of capacity, we expect that people in 5 to 10 years will be wanting to communicate holographically. I mean, that's the prediction, which will take a hell of a lot more transmission of information. Now, you know, if 10 years ago, if they told me I was gonna be, you know, chair of a board and we'd have 24 members meeting, you know, 3 or 4 times a month with different people, we have more meetings than that going on. Anyway, all remotely, because, you know, we wouldn't be able to meet if we had to drive each other, we're too far away. I'd never get attendance, we wouldn't have a quorum, you know? Well, so, you know, COVID gave us and take it away, but, I just know that there are other systems that have been designed previously where, for example, the private sector limits the bandwidth you can get because they can control it. We can control the traffic at our end, you know, but that's not something that we want to engage in. We want to make sure we have capacity for the future. And if somebody builds a house next door or between you and the next neighbor, they ought to be able to get on, and it shouldn't detract from your connection, because in my neighborhood, that's what happens with copper. But,
Right.
but we're gonna be connected to the outside world by 3 points. Stamford, Brattleboro, and probably up by Whitehall, Manchester, where we go out to the outside internet, and we actually have to bid and contract for the bandwidth that enters our system. That's from the big players in the 4 big players in the internet world, and that own the internet around the whole world. Okay, I mean, you know, it's amazing. So we are not dependent. Our private partner that we contracted with is determined not to be dependent upon one provider. We're going to, at each of these entry points, we're going to have 3 different providers that we have different bandwidth for. So if one of them goes down, we're still alive. The other thing that's happening is our design has 3 loops. One is in the south, and you'll read about this in the one in the south, one in the middle, and one in the north. And you're connecting to the one in the middle. Now, the towns that need the most have the lousiest connection. For example, Marlboro, 96% unserved. Halifax, 100% unserved. Stamford, Reedsboro, Wardsboro is about 100%. So there are 6 towns. When we try to build out, we're going to try to get their fiber service area, little distribution points in each town, to be dealt with first. And so we have a priority list. There are 155 of these little sectors based on the design, and that's if you want to get into it. And we now have I put 16 have been finished in terms of detailed design. The whole shoot match is all designed for it already, but the details actually hang up and connect people. That's going to be the 16, but now we have 20. I just need the data meeting. I mean, we're making progress all the time, and it'll be incremental like this. The thing is, well, good question. Originally, the feasibility study that WRC did was 10 years, but we're shrinking that down to 5. We think. But we may, in fact, when we get down to the 4th and 5th year, we may be talking mostly about trying to compete with or connect people in Brattleboro or in Dover or Wilmington, where they already have a lot of cable, or even up Route 30 here. We're going to come up Route 30 because we got to connect the people up in the hills that aren't connected. That's why it's kind of a strange project, in that regard. But to get back to our present grant will take us out for 15 to 18 months of construction. The plan is to construct 30 miles a month, 30 miles a month. We can connect, we can connect, let's see, I forgot that number, I shouldn't say. About 180 people a month is the minimum, but we could connect more depending on demand. So this first section that we have with the funding, that's going to get us 476 miles or so of construction. And it's going to be able to connect of the over 7,000 people that are unserved, underserved in our 24 towns. We're going to be able to connect over 4,000 in that first grant.
You know what I really like? You know what I really like about this, Stephen? I think, there's a cybersecurity aspect to this, right? I understood you have these 3 access points from which, and you buy you buy
Yeah.
the internet connection basically from bigger providers, but you have several that you can buy from, right? So if one goes
Yeah.
down because of a cybersecurity attack, you can still operate, right? And you can keep
Right.
the net online. I really like that idea. Can you
Exactly,
remind
Dan.
us
That
of
we
the,
have the same resilience.
excuse me?
He's Stewart.
Oh, Stuart, it says Dan. Isn't it?
Dan Schroeder.
And Schroeder.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and Dan Tower is underneath it, but still there.
Oh, we still got the right Dan. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah,
I've been
we're-
calling you Dan. You're all right.
We're almost the same.
Okay.
You can call us both Dan, and we'll know who you're talking to. Can you
Great,
remind us of
Bruce.
the ask to the town? I didn't get that in the beginning.
Well, this estimate sheet that I just put out, what does it say there? Oh, well, there are a bunch of variables that you have to consider. First
Okay.
of all, is the poverty level really what is average? You know, in Halifax, their board went for a higher amount of money because they recognize they have more mobile homes. And they have perhaps a higher percentage of people who will have trouble getting connected. Mobile homes can be difficult because legally, the present standard is, I guess in the old days, you could have a mobile home and hang anything on you want, but the present standard is you gotta have conduit, underground connection to a mobile home.
Oh.
I think that's national because they're afraid of low weight.
Can't go over that.
Yeah, we can't go over it. So if you have a person that has a mobile home and they'd like to be connected, maybe they aren't connected at all, then they have to have a conduit connection. That'll be an extra expense. Because we're not gonna construct or build a conduit for people. That gets into a real devilish issue because we have to be able to follow through with what we promise. And if I promise you, I can get a contractor to dig that ditch and put in that conduit for you. And that contractor gets another job someplace else and whatever, you know,
So well.
so I mean, I don't think our board's gonna go for it. I think the board's gonna stay with, look, if it's a conduit, the owner has to be, we'll give them a list of contractors, the owner has to be in charge of getting that conduit in there the way they want it. Now, some people already have conduit, and some of that conduit will be usable. It depends on the size. And the survey that we're doing with these free connection surveys, the detail we're getting is what's the size of the conduit, what's the length of the conduit. So that we don't have too many surprises for the customer. That was about the difficulty of the need. That's why it's so hard to tell. See, I'm talking to boards like that, yours in Brookline here, because I know that you know the town the best, and you'll be able to make a decision. In Marlboro, they went for 24,000. You know, the town is bigger. That's what they committed. In Halifax, it was 40,000. I forgot what it was in Jamaica. Jamaica committed.
You know what would be helpful? I think it's really hard to react to this when you don't know what it's going to cost. But you have some reference points, right, from what other towns did. Maybe you can provide a number what the percentage of ARPA money was that other towns put into digital infrastructure like that, or into exactly your project. Then we can compare it a little bit.
That's a good point. Why don't you want to talk through some of those things on that chart? I mean,
Yeah.
you know about this.
Okay, so the people here already have.
Why don't you sit over here by the
Can you hear me okay?
mic? Sit over here.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, okay.
Oh, yes.
I'm pretty good outside voice.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so we have 319 residents in the town. Now, we don't know, but a common assumption would be 10% of those people would need help, okay? And then we don't know how many of those people are gonna accept the internet. People might not want it, okay? So if everyone's we'll go to the high side, right? We'll say 80% of the people that are eligible are gonna take it. Okay, that's 25.5 premises that need help, okay? And your standard connection fee is $100 each, which is $2,552, okay? And then you have the non-standard connections, that's where you're going over 400 feet, that's where you're going conduit, et cetera, okay? That's gonna be roughly an average of $1,500 for that non-standard connection, okay? So if 8 people, which is 25%, need that, that's another $12,000. So all that adds up to 14,552, okay? And part of it is how many people in town are further away, right? We don't know that. I don't know that percentage. I've only been in town for 2 years. So I don't know that. And then how many of those people need help, right? So those are the numbers that the document kind of shows, high side, low side, and we can, I have an Excel spreadsheet if you wanna give me more detailed numbers or whatever, we can plug it in and come up with a more better number.
Yeah, it's really an estimator.
Yeah.
And there's nothing sacred about it, and so, I really like to make sure that, boards like yourself look at the numbers and look how it fits together and see what really suits your town as you know it. And the take rate is interesting in your town. I think you see there are columns there that say 20% or 40.
Yeah, 80% is the extreme right, and 20% is the extreme.
So the take rate is the percentage of people in town who will actually become our customers, basically. And that won't happen overnight, but you may have a different sense of the town. I know in Marlboro, I'm saying, gosh, probably 80% of the people are gonna take it because we got nothing. Okay, but if you're happy with your cable and you like your clicker, you're not gonna get, you have to go a la carte for your channels and for whatever you want for entertainment on our service, because we're not making money on some channel combination.
Right,
or something like that. Yeah, well, but there are ways to get those kinds of, at least the younger generation is getting all that by a la carte, it's cheaper for them to pay for what they want than pay for one a channel package, So I think we're deciding to leave that up. The other thing people ask about is telephone. It is possible, it will be possible to have your telephone over the internet, over the fiber.
Really?
There are advantages to that. One is that people who are hard of hearing report that the quality of the sound is much better over the fiber connection. Which makes sense, because technically there's no stack really possible except between the wall and your phone, because it's light coming through the fiber to the outside of your house. And then on the inside of your house, there's a disadvantage. You have to have an electrical supply, very small, that converts that light to digital and translates to digital. And the digital is supplying your router, and then that's what's supplying your signal in the house. So if the power goes out, just like now, your router doesn't work, you're not going to get Wi-Fi in your house. But you would have telephone now if it's a copper line analog and the line isn't completely grounded. But if the line goes down, your telephone goes out too. But the telephone is carrying the power along with that copper wire. And light cannot carry electricity. Light is carrying the message, but not the electricity. Yeah. So
Does that piece of equipment that converts the light to a digital format, is that included in the $100 hookup charge?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. In fact, I don't want to. This chart does show $100 hookup charge, but it's likely I'm sensing that the board is not going to go with that. They're going to go free. So if you want to deduct some money for that on your estimate, it's good. I think you're pretty confident doing it because we're competing with other providers in parts of this state that are going to connect people free. So
Steve,
we recommend.
Can I ask you a quick? Are you saying when the power goes out, the internet is still on because it's glass fiber? So if I have a computer running on battery, I will still be able to continue to work, right?
Yeah, so long as this electrical supply for your translator from the light to the digital, it's an ONT. It's not
a modem, but we could call it.
We could call it a modem,
But it's not.
So it has
so
to,
there's some kind of modem, and that but that is still
has to have a
electric,
little
right? Yeah.
Yes, it has to have a little bit of electricity. and that can be provided by a battery, or you could buy, well, you know, the common way, the cheapest way would be to go to Staples and buy a, what do we call it?
I
A
gotcha.
UPS. You know, that would hold you over for 8 hours or whatever time
Yeah.
you want. Now, we may have such a device available for our phone service because once we're a phone service provider, we're obliged to offer that to the customer. But it may be that it's cheaper for the customer to do their own battery backup in terms of that. But
Yeah.
the same thing applies for your computer as applies to the phone. I'm just trying to be candid with everybody about what the disadvantages of a voice over internet phone. Now, of course, your cell phone works too, you know, but a lot of people don't have cell service. I don't have cell service where I live, so I'm up a creek no matter, you know what.
Do you know?
That's actually a real problem that I often have when I'm on Zoom calls with clients, that I get kicked out of the call, sometimes in the middle of a sentence. And that's to do with the micro glitches in the electricity grid, I think. So if we had a digital solution where this wouldn't happen anymore, that would benefit everybody in the town, I think. I don't know, maybe I'm the only one, but it's
Well,
a
there's
good
no
problem.
doubt it's a better product. There's no doubt it's a better product and a better service. And the other thing I want to assure you about is that since it's controlled, the fee structure and the service and the maintenance is all the responsibility of this board that you appoint. It's a heavy burden. And we are responsible to contract for that work, because the 24 of us aren't going to go around and repair your pole. So, you know, we have a private partner, Great Works Internet from Biddeford, Maine. They have constructed an infrastructure for Islesboro, the whole island, and other communities in Maine. They have a very good reputation. And we have been negotiating pages and pages of detail for every single aspect of the project that we need to be done, including construction, design, construction, maintenance, operation, internet service provision, and voice over internet. So, and we would not be able to get this grant from the VCPP if we didn't have our act together and had those contracts vetted. An engineer from VCPP has vetted our design, overall design.
Yeah, another question, based on the take rates of 20, 40, 60, and 80, and looking at the range of the estimated totals needed, which ranges from 3,638 to 14,552.
Yeah.
If I understood your comment earlier, from that range of totals, the connect fee can be legitimately not included in it, or
Yeah, you can subtract whatever the number is.
Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't, Don hasn't been to some of these marketing sessions that I've been to recently. So the marketing task force is working on this right now, because I'm heading towards the board on the 20, what's the 21st? Is that the next Wednesday?
Yeah.
14th, 21st. 21st will be a full governing board meeting, and they're all public meetings. So we will be deciding on this very issue, I hope, at that time, because we will have done enough research to know where we want to start. Now we're a business, so it doesn't mean that we can't change something in the future if things look bleak. But right now we're counting on about a very high take rate in these first towns. Now, if I were looking at Brookline, I wouldn't expect that high take rate. You know, I mean, that's why I'm saying you really are the best judge of what happened. Now, the other thing to think about is that we're not going to be connecting you right away. You know, we can't. We're the bad news is we're not starting in Brooklyn.
We don't have the need.
Bad news, but I can say that in the present plan, you are out of 7 phases, you're in the 4th phase for the majority of your constituents, and then another fiber service area is serving the rest of them in the 6th phase. That's because of the way the construction logically goes from the engineering point of view, also based on the fact that that's the difference, because basically your town is the same. Although maybe one of those areas actually has more unserved people, because we have decided these 150 FSA's fiber service areas really should be ranked based on the percentage of unserved people in them.
Right.
But we can't go hopping around either. So it's a compromise.
So the first one we do is probably gonna have a higher.
High percentage, yeah, I could look at the chart and figure that out.
Halifax.
Right, well, in this town, there's two areas that we're gonna build.
Yeah, it says higher needs.
So the one that we're gonna build first is definitely gonna have a higher need, just knowing the way that we're deciding.
Yeah, yeah. There are, yeah, actually, this looks like, well, I think they've got combined. There's one FSA has about 113 people in it, and the other one has 205 locations. That gets you up to about your 300 and whatever, right? So that's where I had this little chart that shows each town and the 7 stages and how many, you know, locations are in each town and so forth. And it's interesting chart. That's one. It adds up to 27,000 customers at the end.
And you copy this?
Well, and I really don't want to get it, just pass it on so people get a visual. I just want to make sure you understand everybody's included in this. And that's one thing that we're doing now with the engineered FSA that we just dispersed 20. We're now having people from our own towns, the towns affected, looking at those design plans and make sure nobody's left out and we aren't making any mistakes about what the plan is. Because once that construction starts, we don't want to have any bumps. We want to make sure we've done the job and we've done it well. And that will be followed up with, right now, people in some areas are receiving this little pamphlet I pass around. Which is exciting news, and it explains to them why somebody might be prominent on their property. And we'll give each person a flyer to explain to them that we're doing a free connection survey. And they don't have to take the business. They don't have to get connected. But we want to have a database that's prepared to act fast when they say they want it. And because it costs us more to send somebody out individually after the fact. Okay, Don calls up a month from now. I got to go out there. You know, you call up 6 months ago. I got to go out there. That's the problem. Yeah.
I'm sitting here thinking about the time frames that you have a need for.
Yeah.
In the structure of, the town has until December 31st of 2024.
Yes.
To advise the federal government and supplier of the ARPA monies what we're gonna do with it, and then we have 2 years to pay it out.
Yeah.
So I noticed in your PowerPoint, I think it was stated that there are 4 towns that are approved ARPA monies.
Yes.
And you've got 6 other towns who are considering it. I suspect maybe you were one of those 6.
Yeah, I could.
What time frame are we under as a town to meet your needs and to fulfill our obligations regarding the ARPA structure?
Yeah. Well, okay, so the straightforward answer is you should be on your own time. I was going to explain that the towns so far, Halifax and Marlborough, not surprisingly, have allocated money because they have the prospect within the next 12 months of having people connected and having people say, I can't afford it. Okay, so they don't, but another aspect is that the Vermont Community Broadband Board has said that they will match the money that towns put in the ARPA money. And that's an effort that they can't come up with enough money to pay for everything throughout the state. They're going to be able to come up with grants. We expect the IIJA grant will be about 150 million for the state. The ARPA was 250 million for the state. Now we're talking about an NIDIA grant for 100 million. The governor's going to put in 30 million to make sure that happens because it has to be a match. So there's about 500 million, I don't know, 400 million, something like that. But we anticipate that that's only going to get us probably 60 to 70% of the way, because we have to have 35 to, originally was 35. I think it's getting closer to 50 million. Price keeps going up. By the way, we've already bought fiber. We already have a 300 miles of fiber stat. So we anticipate that we'll have to get to a positive EBITDA. That's a positive rate considering borrowing. Can you understand what the heck that stands for? I don't. Earnings. What is it? For earnings. For tax. It's interest, tax, and amortization. Man, he's got it. It's what they used to use, what the banks use to loan money, and the revenue bond bank requires about a 1.3 ratio. In other words, our income earnings before.
Maybe there's another way to ask the question a little easier. When would you need to know that we're on?
Oh, well, I know you're on because you got a voting member on the board, but when you have to, they'll probably be in phase 4, when your customers will get connected. And phase 4 is going to be immediately following the 24-month first grant, that we have. And so it's really 2 years from now. I mean, unfortunately, in terms of ARPA, you're not obliged, before, as you said, December 31st, 24 to say where you're putting it. But but I was mentioning this matching because it isn't clear to me when the deadline is for the matching funds. And if I had the inside information to say definitely that September 15th was the date, I would be advertising that with all the towns. But I don't have that for sure. That was a date they set before, and I believe that they are going to extend it because they can't expect towns to be donating money to something they're not going to be, there's no buzz about it. And we're one of the front leading CUDs in the state of the 9 that are formed. And there are about 2 that have done something before us. But that means there are a bunch of them who aren't even getting close to this reality of having a plan. By the way, this is the visual of your town. These 2 little green things are the fiber service areas here, I think. Your town, that's kind of the road better than I do. But these little dots show all your places. So this is the kind of, I'm just trying to give you visual of the detail. We don't have this stuff out publicly for sure, of course, because we are in a competitive world, and there are the private sector. I don't want to catch the strings on it. They're doing what they need to do to make money and keep their stockholders happy and all that. But they certainly would love to see us fail. Why? Because it's still got customers, and they won't lose customers, but also because if these communications union districts in the state of Vermont are not successful on a sustainable business model, which we have vetted plans to make sure we're visible, otherwise we wouldn't be investing the money. Be a waste of public money, but it could be possible that when the bankruptcy comes around, that a private company buys the entire network and pennies on a dollar. For pennies on a dollar. That's the thing that I'm concerned about, and why I think as citizens, if we believe in public authority, and that this should be a public utility, not just something that all the companies fight over, then we have to. I'm urging people to support it.
I have no doubt, as soon as you get any indication from that entity matching money, you will let us know what the deadline.
I will. Yeah. Because I think you're ready to make a decision. It's not. I don't sense. The meeting house is not a very controversial decision either. You have a lot of good causes here, and I think that if you're like Marlboro, we don't have a lot of infrastructure to spend it on. We don't have. We just don't have anything in our towns. So I do know that it's sometimes a puzzle to decide what can we do with this that benefits.
We only have $158,000, little under $500 to spend in the various projects. So it's for me personally, stomach is turning and you're tossing and turning. Someone's mentioned providing housing in the area, which is needed in every town. It's a tough decision.
Really. Good causes, and I don't envy your position. I was just last night with a Brattleboro because we have 2 points of presence that we have to get a lease agreement with them, with the town, because one's in the firehouse and one's at their Pleasant Valley installation, and because that's the big access point and distribution points for our southern New England. Well, and they were very enthusiastic about the project and all, and they joined very early in on this, and the assistant manager was recounting that was because they realized, even though everybody in Brattleboro had really wonderful service compared to mine, they have 118 people in Brattleboro that are certified unserved, underserved, and they're up in the hills next to Marlboro, Dummerston, Vernon, or whatever.
I am gonna try
Yeah, we got
to,
it, so.
try to stick to our timelines. Don, you wanna add anything to?
No, it's way more practice.
Well,
I go to a lot of meetings, I go to more meetings than you do.
I agree.
You said it's on.
If you do have a few minutes to sit here, just in case, I'd like to open up the floor to those residents who have signed in from home. If you would like to ask them more questions about DV fiber or share your ideas about ARPA appropriations that might benefit the community. And so, Dan, you've been, waiting for this night for quite a while. We're so glad that you were able to join us tonight. You had some very interesting questions. I was wondering if you wanted to become part of our alternate DV fiber representation group. Please do consider that. You can email
the fiber board.
the fiber board.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you know my email. If you
I know a thing or
it.
two about these things, so I can't help myself but ask. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
That'd
think
be good.
I think both proposals we heard today were in the scope of ARPA, as I understand it, and interesting. My question is, I don't have a proposal to make to the select board, unfortunately, because I'm too new in this town to have anything of value to add or propose. But I was wondering, maybe it's good to align on what the priorities would be. You know, what is really and I'm thinking first about the purpose of ARPA is to kind of help the economy recover and support those that suffered a lot from the pandemic. And I was wondering who in our town falls into that category and what is the need there, right? I would maybe start with this. And I don't know exactly, you know, what the problems were that the town experienced, because I came at the tail end of the pandemic into the town, basically. But that would be my first question. And then the second question is the future-proofing aspect, right? How can we set up the residents of the town, maybe specifically also younger ones, with you know, something to get excited about? And I'm going back to the discussion we had about some of the vandalism that we experienced and the speeding, right? Younger people that apparently lack a bit of a perspective, and maybe the meeting house could be a place for them. I don't know how or so, but I think that there's no place for such people in the town at this point, I think. And I think we often forget maybe the younger generation. So those are my thoughts.
I have to agree with you. I'm gonna approach your second question first, and I think Bruce will concur, and Stan will also may chime in, that we do need to educate the kids and give them an outlet for their energies and time that they have, downtime that they have. And if we can have a community center set up in some form and to have some more organized programs here in town, whether it be Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, 4-H, things of that sort in a community center, that would be great. And try to bring the younger people into a more of a community situation. As far as your first question, Brookline does not have a store, a post office, a police department. We don't have any library. We don't have any of those types of programs. What we do have are, you know, pristine environment. We have good roads. We have bucolic scenes. We have nice, good people in it. And one of the things that I think our select board has been talking about as far as our infrastructure would be to you know, continue with those services, whether it be to continue to improve our roads and bridges. And that might mean we're talking about purchasing some equipment so that we can do that. We don't have any equipment in town other than a 1980 something grader. We just got a leaf blower with a grant to clean out culverts. But other than that, we don't have a wheelbarrow. We have a few chainsaws and a few weed whackers, correct? We don't have a grease gun. We have a lot of supply needs that, since, you know, we're staying, at least I am in town, and I would like to see, you know, to have that foundation and that infrastructure.
That is totally in scope of ARPA to my mind as well. Yeah.
Bruce, do you wanna?
So, but you mentioned that community helping youth, especially in light of what's been going on around town. Years ago, when we started working on the meeting house, it was my initial idea to use the addition. for that reason. Whether in the afternoons, you had a monitor, you had computers in there, or there's so much that can be done with those, I call them two buildings, because you have the sanctuary and you have the addition. And the addition can be used, it's large, I mean, you can, and now we have heating. So it could be used for expanding, benefits for the youth, rather than having them running around on Saturday night going crazy. What they do. Every summer.
If you do decide to explore that idea, you may talk to some people in Marlboro, the Marlboro Community Center. Go to the website, Lauren Poster is the head of that. That started as a church, it still is a church, seasonal church, but the community center is down in the basement,
Downstairs.
first floor. It's not a basement, first floor. But it was a elementary, it was a preschool at one time, but now we've set up our first public library there in the past 5 years, and we have a food shelf there, and we have basically a Cracker Barrel thing on Saturdays for people hang out. They come and it's coffee and whatever, baked goods and free donation, and then people can pick up their eggs there, or it's really becoming quite a thing. And I know I'm going to make a presentation at that Saturday. This Saturday I'm at the Marlboro Fair. The next one I'll be there to answer questions about fiber and so forth, about the connection. So I do recommend it, because I know I've seen in the past 5 years, a little over, that that's really become a very vital part of the town. And Marlboro is, of course, larger than your town, but it's a very similar kind of opportunity.
Yeah,
And what happened?
We're kind of drawing people in at that.
Yeah, and it's all kinds of people, and then people display their artwork there and their crafts and so forth. And there's historical stuff there displayed. So I think, anything that, any ideas that people come up with should be encouraged. And it's really important for the vitality of our communities to have that kind of opportunity to talk to each other and see each other and see how we're doing.
Appreciate that. I'm gonna see, Dan Tower, you're online. Did you have anything that you would like to contribute, or are you waiting for an RFP discussion?
I'm mostly just listening, but I've really enjoyed this discussion. And I certainly agree that there's a role for the meeting house possibly, and being a place where people can, young or old, either one or both, can gather and maybe provide some sort of an outlet for some of the unspent energy in town, or the misspent energy in town. But anyway, it's I don't have anything specific to offer at the moment, but I appreciate the discussion.
All right. And the other Dan, anything else that you would like to add as we move on through our agenda this evening?
No, thank you.
All right, well, again, you have my email address, and if you would like to get more involved, please let me know. I'd be glad to put you to work.
And as Don can say, you will really get connected with a lot of different people of very interesting backgrounds all around this communications union district. I've got, I knew a lot of people at schools, but there's a whole other world out there of people, different professions and so forth that are on our board.
Right to the
Well, we're gonna have it, that's right, well, you
go right by it.
That'll be the place.
I'd just like to say, I am of the opinion that this DB fiber is so far ahead of the other areas of the state because of the leadership and the commitment of the people that are doing this. Although not formally a member, I do log in and I do keep track of it, and the pace that seems to be maintained and the apparent involvement of the volunteers to make it work is really commendable, and thank you very much.
I thank the rest of the board members, and I'll share that with you.
I hope you do. Thank you very much.
It's been a wonderful experience, and there's a long way to go, and we have to have the aspiration to get this inspiration accomplished.
Do you have to answer to the public service board anyways?
We will, if we
Sure,
become a
right.
voice, if we become a voice, if we offer voice over in telephone, then we have a different FCC regulation and PUC. But otherwise, it's really an unregulated industry. Cell service and fiber are really unregulated. The only thing that's regulated about cell service is the frequency that they have to bid on, you know, to be able to communicate on that frequency. Now, the wonderful thing about light is nobody has proprietary rights to light.
Yeah.
Light, and I'm a retired physics teacher too, you know, so light is carrying the message by the frequency similar to a radio wave, because the light wave is similar to radio wave. It's just the light has color we perceive, and you know, our brains don't get radio waves to that. But so the light, each of those colors, if you can imagine a rainbow, each of those colors is a different frequency, and that can carry a different signal. That's why, as Dan said here, that it really is an unlimited capacity for information. That's why I can claim that it's future-proof, and the limiting factor is the ability of my little computer to cope with all the information as fast as it comes, you know? So it isn't gonna be that now my computer is saying, hey, give me more information, I gotta freeze you, I can't show anything.
TV's probably $65 million.
Probably.
Yeah, and so, you know, and that's why, you know, there's such a capacity and opportunity, because the fiber is a hair, you know, it's a diameter of a hair, you don't have to have a big hose. It's really tiny. So our fiber backbone has 144 fibers in this cable, and that whole thing only is about 5/8 diameter.
5/8 of an inch.
Well, when you're ready to distribute some marketing information.
Yeah.
Please reach out, and we would be glad to help accomplish that for you in this endeavor. One of the things we did do in Brookline, not too long ago, within the past year, was we do have a Wi-Fi hotspot in our parking lot. Right here underneath one of the lights.
And they show up sometimes.
Yeah, so you can sit in the parking lot and access password-free, the Wi-Fi. We found that there were, you know, when the schools were closed and kids,
Yeah.
that was something
Oh,
that.
yeah.
On Saturday night.
So,
Yeah, okay.
but we will be moving on to our agenda. You are welcome to stay, however, I understand. You'd rather go.
They can vote. I gotta go to my next meeting. I think I'm headed to the deadline at 4 or 5.
Oh, no.
You're out of this. Okay, yeah, when I was, very fun to see you all again. Thank you.
All right.
Wow, you're involved.
Right, very good. So it's approximately almost 8:25, so we're below, but still moving along. Under new business. Bill's number, Bruce mentioned, asked if I put this on the agenda. I'd like to talk about purchasing some of the tree work that came down. Mark, could you tell us a little bit about what you're interested in?
Sure, so.
You might want to sit in the microphone chair, would you mind?
You know,
All right, that seems to work. So Peter.
okay,
Yes,
so.
give him the talking stick.
Yes.
We did some accomplishments while the rented excavator was here to remove some unwanted trees at the Brookline Elementary School daycare building. So in the back, there was talking in the near future of possible solar powered panels, as well as safety hazards to remove some trees. So with the equipment and time, I had removed 4 trees. 3 of pine and 1 was a large cherry tree. So with the removal down, I did some of the cleanup detailed with the machinery, and I turned the trees into logs for sale. And I forwarded the logs to an area where these logs could be loaded onto a log truck to be removed. So I wanted to bring to the board, an offer to purchase the wood, the tree logs, to be resawn into lumber. I used a measure stick to tally board footage. Approximately a little over 2,000 board feet altogether that was salvaged out of the trees for lumber. So the cherry logs total the value of a total board footage of 795 feet in 4 logs. The pine logs, I accumulated 11 logs out of the pine. The total board footage accumulated was 1,280 feet. So between the 795 and the 1,280, 2,075 board feet. The cherry logs have more value than pine logs, being hardwood. So I did some math. And I would like to offer the town of Brookline $430 of value for the 15 logs that are laying at the pool. This is minus the tree tops. This is just
The logs, so it's $430
$430.
for the 15 logs, which are 11 are pine and 4 are cherry.
Yeah.
How does the board wish to proceed on this? I hate to say, let's table it and put it for a vote at the next meeting. It would mean that the wood would sit there for another 2 weeks, but is that something, because we don't have a vote on?
That's fine. They'll throw another. Yep, it's not a problem.
Is this something you'd like me to add to the next agenda for a vote? You'll have some time to sleep on it and think about it.
Well, I'm sitting here with a lot of different feelings going through my mind. Mark is the person who actually took them down and he operated the equipment to enable it to be safely done. And it would be so easy to say, yes, we'd accept the bid. On the other hand, I can sense that, you know, as is typical of any governmental agency, there's other opinions about that, and I would feel awkward in one sense, someone alleging that we gave an individual favoritism. It almost seems like the fair thing to do is perhaps submit an RFP or the things and so get another bid or make an announcement on the service of the town that there are trees, and if anyone's interested, submit a bid, so that it's not viewed as favoritism. I know one of the issues that came up when I first moved to town is there was a select board member who had equipment who repaired roads in town, and when I'd be at a various get together once or another, I'd hear negative comments about the individual. He actually saved the town money, but it was the concept of being a closed system where that person did that. And so I feel that, you know, as much as I really feel it probably ought to be something that Mark should be allowed to do. On the other hand, I feel awkward and subject to criticism.
No, you feel awkward. I understand and I respect that responsibility quite seriously. Bruce?
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all, Stan. And I encourage you what you're saying. You gotta keep in mind, this is under the purchase policy, correct?
Oh, yeah, purchase, we're not buying anything, we're selling
Right,
it,
we're
so it
selling
doesn't
it.
have anything to
You
do with the purchase policy.
So it's just a matter of being transparent, I think is important. But you know, for my deal, I'd say, get them out of here. It's not my deal, it's the town's deal. And I think being transparent and opening it up and maybe tabling it first. And see if anybody else wants to make a quote, if not. Get them out of here.
All right, and this is an awkward thing, if I may say.
It is, sure.
Anyone who's watching this is gonna know what your bid is.
If anybody would
So-
like to,
so that, You know, which is normally what we don't wanna do, because we don't wanna ruin the competitiveness of the item. I would suggest that if we do make it, through the labor service, a wonderful service that we have, available, that we not quote what is our estimate.
That's correct.
What I'd like to do is I'd like to,
Is it something for $425? I'm gonna be like.
I'd like to, I'd like to.
Could I make a remark out of turn?
Right ahead, I don't have a problem with that. You bid around, you know a lot.
Well, it seems to me that you could think about this in terms of like the purchase policy amounts. This is a very small amount, and there's considerable cost proportionately in trying to deal with it externally, like putting it up for auction or something, is what it amounts to. And it seems to me that even if it was $1,000, we'd probably be saving money to just say, okay. You know, if it was more than that, there'd be more, it's sort of like a purchase policy in reverse, where you have to do an RFP for something over a certain amount, right?
Well, what I would like to.
That was all I wanted to say.
Okay.
Thank you for that input.
What I'd like to suggest is I would like to send out through the email service a brief summary of tonight's meeting, including the discussion with the DV Fiber and how grateful I am for the continuing participation in our community members. And I can also highlight some of the achievements that have been going on this year, including our cleanup and the knotweed and so on and so forth, and the trees coming down, and say that there are trees for sale. If someone is interested, please contact me.
There you are.
All right, and we will put it on the agenda for the next meeting. And at the next meeting, I will share if there was any contact, and we'll go from there, but thank you, that was very
Thank you.
generous. Okay, so I will follow up with email summary, email to the residents.
Okay.
Between that, and I also wanted to, yeah, okay.
There's another aspect of this that I didn't mention, and that is, I have no idea what that other individual that I referred to, who did work for the town and actually saved the town money, experienced on a personal basis, the opinion that some other people might have had. So I'm looking at this in another way, which is I would not want to see you experience any adverse remarks.
Right.
Because you innocently did something, so I'm looking at both sides.
And you're in a position where you have to point your finger at the select board.
Yeah, no, I
That-
realize the situation and I understand that maybe somebody would want to pay more for it, and if they want to pay more for it, then, yeah, I don't have.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, and I'll move forward on with that. Next, I'd like to move on in the interest of continuing here. Brookline Meeting House has an event on this Friday, September 9th, with the Brookline Meeting House Committee, including such Roger Albee, Mr. and Mrs. Cutler, who made a generous donation to the meeting house, and other longtime residents such as Mr. Rank, Mr. Wellman, Mr. Osgood. And the meeting will be at the meeting house starting around 4 p.m. on Friday. If anyone is interested in coming in, we'll have just some simple soft drinks, and then Roger always done some research on the community, and we hope to be able to inform Mr. Cutler, whose family is resident, helped to build that church. So it is
That's a
something
good time.
that people might wish to come and stay.
That's a nice event.
One of the reasons why it's usually in the community.
Who knows about this? Is it perhaps Julie?
It's not, we did not necessarily make it into a public event because of the limitations on our facilities and the restroom, and we don't have
Okay.
so we're looking at keeping it 10 or 15 people at the most, and if that's us committee and a couple of residents wanting to show up, or workers who have done vending jobs, so I haven't, it was not made as a public event.
Interesting IP.
Yes. All right, next item is the request for proposal for the Brookline Meeting House Foundation repairs. We received today, and I hope the selectmen have time to review that. We worked with Harry and Mr. Drew, and Leanne, and trying to come up with a scope for the foundation rebuild so that scope of work project so that it would be sufficient enough to help in the receiving of a grant for this foundation from the Division of Vermont Historic Preservation. And so in trying to work with this, we were doing diagrammings and we changed a couple of ways that we looked at it, and we have a new, did you get to read
I
this?
still have problems.
Okay, so let's go over, Bruce, you had a concern about the RFP.
You can help me, like, thank you for sending me all that today. And I was coming off 3 hours of splitting wood, so I was doing the best I can with it. But what I don't understand is, first of all, the dirt, I don't have,
Or beams.
the beam, which is made out of concrete. How many are there? Is it just one, and where is it positioned? I have no idea.
It says it on there, but it goes.
Yeah, you look at the dots, you draw the line between the dots. There's a foundation where the church is here and the addition, I don't know if they call it the annex, wood structure, whatever. You go to the south west wall of that wood structure where it comes together with the brick building.
Okay.
You go down 30 inches below grade.
Right.
When you hit that depth, put a level on it and just keep going around the east side and the other side. Okay, so that it's a giant shaped U at constant depth. Once you reach that 30 inches on that point below grade. Okay. That trench is to be 20 inches wide. Because that's what the beam is. 20 inches wide. We already know it's gonna be 30 inches below grade. Okay, so the first layer that's going into that trench is 20 inches wide, of 3/4 inch crust stone for a depth of 14 inches.
Right.
Okay, and that's gonna go all the way around in the bottom of that trench.
Okay, so the trench is complete, okay.
Correct. The beam that's gonna be poured is gonna be poured with one pouring in a U shape on the east side, south side, where the current entry is, you know, that area there, and again around to where the complete, all the way around. Okay, and there's gonna be in the middle of that, 1/2 inch rebar, 2 double side by side in the center of that concrete beam. And I'm suggesting in the research that I did essentially says that at a minimum, that concrete should be of a 3,000 pounds per square inch resiliency strength.
So that beam is gonna go all the way around?
Correct.
Okay, as a U, okay, and then what the plan is to build upwards from it depending on depending on which side of the building is.
Correct. On the south side.
That's what was confusing me.
Okay.
It didn't appear to me, it sounded like there was just one beam that's only 20 inches wide. I was like, that
One
was
continuous.
all the way around.
Yes.
Okay. And then depending on the side, whether you're gonna build it up or add field stone. And that was mortared, if I remember right, if I read that correctly. The above grade east and north walls are to be mortared, made in stone. So the made of
So
stone.
that's on the exterior. That's on the exterior of those two sides.
Okay, so you're saying he's gonna build a wall and then the exterior is gonna be covered with it? Is that what you-
No,
Yes.
no.
The exterior is gonna have mortared field stone on. It's not.
No, according to the comments that Gary made. The only side that is not gonna be stone is the south side. And that is going to maintain the brick that is there. What Carrie suggested is that there be on top of that beam. In an appropriate place on that beam. To be in line with the stone foundation of the original building.
Right,
There's gonna be constructed a wall, which is going to be extending 10 feet above grade because
10
it's
inches.
10 inches, I'm sorry.
that's,
And that wall is gonna be constructed such that the inner half of that is going to be 4-inch concrete block. Extending from the existing church part to the corner, to the southeast corner. And on the exterior of that,
Yes.
mortar to that is gonna be the 4-inch below grade brick.
I got it.
The other two sides are gonna be all field stone, and there's no concrete block that's going beyond that southeast corner. From that
Right.
brick and concrete block
Right.
section,
Because
the
he's
rest
trying
is
to
gonna
make
be
it up.
solid
He's trying
stone.
to make it look the same.
The way he expressed that originally made us think that their concrete block with a stone fascia was gonna be on the east and north wall.
No,
But that's not what he intended.
No, yeah, because he was says it. Doesn't matter, I understand.
Okay,
As far as the drip edge and how that all graded out, I'm not concerned about any of that.
Well, the
That's
difference,
normal.
we talked when we were there was that the east wall of that has dips and valleys which approach 23 inches in one spot where it's worn away and access. So when I mentioned that to Kerry, he said we should put a berm against those deeper current surfaces, such that when the finished product is done, the loam has been brought in, and when you look at where the ground approaches the building, it's gonna be roughly a continuous exposed 10 inches of material, brick on one side, stone on the other. So that, and then it's seated and so forth. And that's what that says.
Okay, I understand.
It's 30 inches below grade, considered below the frost.
Well, I was gonna just bring that up. Go ahead, Mark. Go ahead.
I'm just curious now.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Because I've heard say,
Yeah.
go down 4 feet.
Yeah, well, you know,
I'm just curious if there's a theory on. Protecting heated.
We should bring that up because
I did,
I don't.
I asked him about that. In a sense, I said, you know, most areas in this part of the country are recommended to have a 48-inch low grade foot.
Well,
That's right.
And that was the reason why there's 14 inches of crushed stone. Because the movement of what's going to happen if the frost gets to the 30 inches is that there's room for movement, and you got a 14 or 16 inch thick concrete slab with rebar. And the rebar added to the concrete of the 3000. When I went on the internet and asked what can be acceptable, as long as it has the rebar in it and it's close to that 30 to 36 inches, that is deemed to be acceptable in this area.
And also, and that's
Good question.
and that thought is, although I haven't dug it myself, I believe that whole place is on sand anyway.
Well, I think that's the other additional thing. You mentioned that when we met at the building to review it. And that would probably, if it were loam or compacted clay, like it is at my house, the moisture in that would in fact freeze and heat. But in this case, where it appears there's sand, and Kerry did, just to further what Kerry had suggested, was when he tested and looked at the septic tank,
Yeah.
he said it was all sand, all loose dirt.
How deep is he
So-
gonna go with the stone?
14 inches up from 30 inches. So the bottom is 30, you put in 14 inches, and then a 16 on that brings it level with the top of
Now,
30 inches.
witness what has happened to the building in 130 years. Nothing.
not much, right? So.
So I think he's right on.
All right, so if there's, we can continue, I'm gonna make a motion, and we can continue any discussion at that appropriate
Okay.
point. I'd like to make a motion to place the request for proposal, scope of work for the foundation rebuild, beneath the annex of the Brookline Meeting House in the Brattleboro Reformer for this Saturday, as presented in the revised, in the revised 9/7/22 paperwork. May I have a second? Seconded by Stan Noga. Continued discussion, any other continued discussion about placing the RFP as presented with the additional details. Okay, my only comment would be, I'd like to thank for everybody who worked together to make sure that we are apples to apples and oranges to oranges, we understand what's going on. And that we are very excited to see this progress and hopes that we can get a grant that will help to accomplish this project.
Here, that's quite serious,
Yep.
given that what is there now. This is quite the upgrade, so I'm excited about it, if we can get the grant.
And yet still maintain the appearance to match what's there.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Well, you know, Gary's. I don't mean this as a bad way, Gary's an idiot about that, he wants it to be a historic structure.
Any other discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the RFP as presented on 9/7/2022 for the RFP signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Be it known that the RFP will be published, unanimous approval from the select board. Thank you everyone again who has helped in getting this fabulous project to move forward. Okay.
May I make a comment about number D?
D, yes.
At this point, the only reason to hold a discussion and or vote on this is for a meeting which will be held in, I think it was October. This particular issue was discussed at the Wyndham Regional Commission meeting a week ago or so. And it was out of the, I forget how many attendees there were, maybe Peter can remember. There might have been 24 people there, Peter was also in attendance at that meeting,
Oh, okay.
and there were,
Well,
I
there
think,
was a quorum. I think it was 27 towns.
okay, that's right,
Represented.
that's right, you're better than mine. And I think there were 2, maybe 3 people who did not vote in favor of doing this, the rest of us did. The process, however, where this may become helpful, just so we know what we're voting on here, is that after the vote is taken, there's a need by either law or regulation for Wyndham Regional to allow 35 days to elapse for anyone in the general community of the county who objects to this from happening to make their thoughts known. And if I'm not mistaken, 30 days after that, the Wyndham Regional Commission holds a meeting regarding the feedback that they've got, maybe none and maybe an objection. I believe the committee, the representatives from the towns vote on it again to finalize a decision. Did I express that right, Peter?
Well, I'm as new to it as you are, but I think so.
Okay. Thank you. So the initial vote, which I had brought up at the time, not fully sure that they were, but looking like they were gonna ask for a decision. And other than us holding a special meeting, it wasn't gonna happen. But what discussion on the cuff, so to speak, when I raised the issue, and we exchanged, I think, a brief discussion about it, it seemed like there was merit and benefit to sharing expenses and services with Wyndham Region. I did not hear anybody here at the table say, nope, don't want to do it. Not important, not necessary. Particularly in light of the fact that before that, we became aware of it. Someone from another nearby town asked us if we are interested in sharing services and expense with Wyndham Regional.
So that was the hint, okay, somebody knew something before something was known.
Exactly,
Ah.
exactly. Either they got inside scoop, or they were asked, how would you feel about it? I don't know.
All right,
But, so it's already been voted on, but if we wanna look at this in terms of, should someone object to that? And wish to, which will happen anyway, there's gonna be a second vote. If you wanna vote on that vote,
bring it to our.
you can either wait until then, or we could say, in the event that there's an objection, the town of Brookline does hereby approve operating in the fashion that was approved by the majority of the membership on the the last, when the Regional Commission meeting.
I might have you make the motion at that point. However, I am gonna say this. This is a Wyndham Regional Commission's changing its bylaws.
Correct.
They're changing their bylaws. Some of the main things that they've changed is to help communities, municipalities enter into service agreements or cooperative purchasing agreements, which would be a new way of doing work, and also more involvement of the Wyndham, additional responsibilities that the Wyndham Regional Commission would like to take on in assisting towns in managing their local government, basically. There are some changes into the bylaws that they have highlighted in red, but
It's like a mini VLCT.
is it like a mini VLC? I don't know,
No.
they're
No.
more legal, and this is more,
Well, they're all legal in a way. VLCT's mission is to help small municipalities negotiating the statutes of the state of Vermont. Wyndham Regional Commission's main goal and purpose is for regional planning. And there's, I don't know how many in the state, but roughly between 9 and 18 or something like that, commissions throughout the state. And their main focus, their grants are all involved with conducting business in the guise of planning and road work, those highway stuff, town administration, all the things that assist in the towns in entertaining the planning process is what they're all about. So that's all this, that's what their mission is.
Stan, would you like to make a motion?
Okay, yeah, sure. I would make a motion that this board consider voting, make a vote to approve the multi-town structure of Wyndham Regional Commission to enter into contracts for services, funding, management, etc., of planning type things that are under the guise of Wyndham Regional. So that in the event, upon the 35-day exposure to the general public in Wyndham County, should there be any adverse input to the plan of multi-town involvement in contracts and such, that I, as a representative of the town of Brookline, at a subsequent meeting 30 days after the expiration of 35 days, can express the desires of the town of Brookline regarding multi-municipality participation by voting to approve or continue the vote, approve the vote to allow municipalities in Wyndham County to participate in multi-municipal agreements and for services, etc. That's a long one, isn't it?
I want to mention that I think a lot of this arises because people are not showing up for public service, and small towns are not having quorums, and WRC is also losing very significant people. When John Bennett is going to be retiring and they can't find anybody to replace him, and they have to outsource that to consultants. So there's a lot in the wind. If I understood you, you're moving to support the WRC in their vote, in their upcoming vote to enter into contracts with municipalities, the planning contracts with municipalities. I'm not sure you need to put the rest of that in there, anticipating the opposition and so forth.
I
What do you
agree.
think?
I agree, Peter.
So just to enter into planning contracts.
Okay.
And I will,
Multiple municipality contracts.
I will second that motion. Any further discussion?
Multiple municipality planning contracts. Good.
All right,
Thank you.
all those in favor of approving the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we will support the Wyndham Regional Commission bylaw updates, as presented in their timeline. All right, thank you so again for helping us with that. Item E, I'm gonna table this at this time, but we do notice that Wyndham Regional Commission does, has services and grants, and we are looking for some administrative helping, and this is something that, we'd like to pursue. But due to the late nature of tonight's meeting, I think we need to table this tonight. Okay, 6E, I'm gonna put it here. 6E for the next meeting. All right, we're gonna move to the old business very quickly. We had a question about the office cleaning services. I'd like to make a motion that we continue with our hiring, scheduling for Green Valley carpet cleaning to come to the town hall once a month versus once every 8 weeks. It's a public building. We have just gone through a pandemic, and for $40 a session, he deep cleans the bathrooms, washes and fan dries all floor, which is limiting the amount of water because the floor will warp. Cleans all surface, especially public countertops, conference tables and machinery, all high touch surface areas like doorknobs and light switches, all desk areas. Walls will be dusted as needed and cleaning inside windows as needed. He's able to accomplish this on a regular schedule in an hour, which would be $40. I do believe we said an hour and a half when we came back 2 weeks ago because we had 3 months worth or 4 months worth of a gap. There was just a not coming every month, it gets thrown off the schedule, so I think. So I'd like to make a motion that we.
Oh,
Yes.
sorry, may I say per present contract?
Press the contract, yes.
Yeah, okay.
So motion would be to hire on a monthly basis, office cleaning. If I can have a second, we can discuss it further. Bruce, a second, moved by Bruce. Any further discussion? Yes,
I would like to go on record as saying there's not an employee in the town of Brookline that gets $40 an hour. That having been said, and it seems to be a little bit, I view it as a little bit of a slight insult to have people paying someone for $40 when they're doing just as important a job. That having been said, I will acquiesce in it and voting in behalf of it, simply because it's a lot of work for the amount of money we're gonna spend on this over the course of the year.
And also.
To do it in a way that's competitive. Well, irrespective. You know, we could look at any job in this office and say it's a service. You know, it's a governmental service, municipal service. And you know, it's a little bit, I think, if someone's doing a job that might be similar to yours and you're responsible for issuing them a check for X dollars an hour, which is probably double what you're getting, it just feels funny, I would think. But again, this is a once a month thing, and I suspect if we put it up a bid, unfortunately, probably it's gonna end up being something close to that. So I am in favor of consummating it with that having been said.
and I'd like to add that when you break it down, it comes out to about $2 a day for the month, a 5-day week, and that it's a difficult thing to ask our town clerk and assistant town clerk to continue to do that, which they've done for many years. So I do think we have to start hiring out some of these.
Sorry, who seconded?
I believe
Bruce seconded it, and now we're in discussion. So any other discussion?
Just going back to the original intent that we had in the spring, which is, we have a town clerk, we have an assistant town clerk. That's their job, that's what they should be doing. They should be doing dumpsters and cleaning buildings and running over around house, schoolhouse and cleaning that building. So this is good, I'm very comfortable with having.
If we had volunteers, that would be one thing, but we don't.
We don't.
So it's for every town.
Yeah.
All right, here.
if I weren't doing so many other things in addition to this job, I'd do it.
I would do it too, because I used to do that all the time in houses.
I do too.
All right, all those in favor of approving monthly cleaning at a charge of $40 a service, Discussion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? All right, I will notify that we will have a scheduled cleaning once a month for that. Okay, next item, old business. All right, the Vermont Municipal Employee Retirement Service.
Yes.
All right, versus Paychex Retirement Plan. Stan, I know you did an awful lot of research on this program right now. How would you like to approach this at this hour?
Okay, it's a good question, and I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. I have done research on both. And one is extremely expensive, but very easy. The other one is, appears to be relatively easy, but is a little at the initial phase, a little more complicated and a lot less expensive. I guess the bottom line I want to say, the issues are too complex to discuss at this type of meeting. I suggest that between now and the next select board meeting that we have a work bee, so we're not taking the public's time and our time, and at 8, 9, close to 9:02 to talk about the details of two programs and make a decision on it. So I would say table it and work at, I am probably another 2 to 3 days of exchange between the two entities to come out with a firm solution. And in fact, there may be, after Mark sees what he's got to do to get involved, he may want to put our heads together, select board and Mark, to come up with an alternative to what was proposed
Got it.
an August
We may have to
ago.
renegotiate something or another.
But end up, we're the same principle, so that nobody is losing anything, so to speak, okay? So, and I will drop, I spoke earlier with Mark before the meeting started about giving him some of the paperwork to the process that would be probably the most advantageous for him and the town. So that he has a feel of what he's gonna be confronted with, should we go that route. One of them is not being honest and open. They're saying one thing to Melissa, they say one thing to, the same thing to me, and then when they put it in writing, it's changed.
Oh, jeez.
So that makes it very.
And that to me has an impact, and they will not put anything in writing. So I don't wanna, at an open meeting, but that's something that when we get to the work, they can look at the merits of each. But,
Okay.
and I would feel uncomfortable Mark being involved, I let him, I will discuss with him what we encountered, so you can say whether you feel even comfortable dealing with that.
Right.
But I think the facts will direct you to, if you wish to go to a formal program, to the VEMR's program.
So I'm tabling item 7B to the next select board meeting. In the meanwhile, we can schedule a time on the 19th or 20th of September. Cause I'm away for a week. You're away, then you're away.
I'm away from 23rd to 30th.
Okay, so the 19th or 20th is, I'll have to reach out after this to see which night they would work to have, sit down so we can look at this, the details of what Stan has collected. Would one day work better than the other? Would you like to schedule it now? Would you like to do it 10 o'clock, or 9:30?
I'll do Tuesdays and Thursdays, but Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
I'm wondering if with Dot being away next week and you're gonna be like the 23rd.
Yeah, the 30th.
Okay, so it's possible to the 19th or 20th.
You prefer to?
Either one is fine with me.
Okay, Tuesday is better for you, you said?
Yes,
20th? What time would you like to?
early, please.
10?
I just don't want to kill the whole day because I've been working pretty hard on this.
All right, I will set up an appointment for Tuesday, September 20th at 10 a.m. at Town
That
Hall
could take forever.
to review the
Longer than you make that. I would plan on an hour.
yeah. Okay, all right, so we
Going
should,
to a good cause.
That's right.
all right, so we're gonna move on to reports, road supervisor.
We're
Mark.
here late, Mark, but we're gonna get it.
Okay, Mark,
That's 60 seconds.
Pretty sure.
The
So the excavator went away with, I believe, I feel like there was a lot of good, work done with it. Approximately, had to go back through my paperwork and tally, but, we did somewhere between 13 and 14 culverts, added in. Some are new locations, some are exchanged out, totally rusted, no bottoms to them.
Wow.
Much needed, upgraded, bigger sizes. We also accomplished a lot of mowing. Which, I thought we came back a lot right away. We got a lot of road segments done, and again, I haven't tallied the footage. To see how many segments, but I feel like, we're up to par with the state for this year, right? And we also was able to, do a little bit of tree work behind the school with the machine, which I felt was a big saving. I still have lots of plans and continue to do with road improvements and needs. I had taken the grader out and Bucky Mountain Road had suffered the lengthiest time without grading due to busy with the excavator. So as soon as the excavator went away, I went out and scraped Bucky Mountain Road completely. I also hit Narrow Drive while I was down there. And I also did a touch up on Whitney Hill. So the roads throughout the whole summer have had lots of attention. And the one thing I wanted to talk about is on my repeated road checks and travels. Like I say, there's three types of trees removals that I do in town, and I try to prioritize the most hazardous ones first. I mean, there's room for almost a continuous tree removal system to have in town, and each year trees die back, and we have some larger trees that have reached the point where they're very fragile. If they are bumped, the tops can come down, or during a storm, they drop big limbs. We have 4 or 5 of those hovering over the town highways that when I remove a tree, I tend to cut right down close to the ground and tip them over. And I can only do that if there's no power lines or no structures that I might damage. So if I can take it down from the ground level, I'm glad to do it under the town's safety and job description. The other way the trees come down is with the power company. If I can work with a power company, if the tree is close enough, it has to be within a certain amount of footage range, qualified for their, to help them out as well as us. And so they will do that if I call and it fits into their category. And then the other way is hiring a tree service to come in and safely lay the tree down. So a number of the trees that I'm gonna say I don't want to dare tackle need to come down, and I wanted to ask the board if we could hire a tree service for a 1-day tree removal. And with that in mind, I have more than enough trees in line if we hire a tree removal service to come in to keep them busy for more than a day, but we do have 1 full day. the last time we hired it out. It was, started out around $2,000, and then the price the next time was 25. And I understand now that it's in the $3,000 a day range for the whole crew and all the equipment, insurance, trains. So I was wondering how the board felt about, I haven't checked yet, because I wanted to check with the board first, and then I will, if so agreed upon, we can, call and find out the availability and for sure the price, but, would the board feel like using a 1-day tree service in the approximate range of $3,000, or how does the board wanna, do you want to, make a list of trees, put them out for bid? You know, again, the purchase policy is there.
Right.
If we go with what we've done in the past, 3,000 is still under purchase policy. But, I'd like to hear that, how you feel.
Where's that put us in? This is under the
so-
$43,000 that we spend during the year.
Yeah, the
for our
budget-
purchase stuff.
The budget in the town booklet there, a contract, it would fall under contract service.
How much have we spent? Any idea how much we spent so far on those?
I have not seen a budget.
The latest balance sheet that was sent to us last
Oh, I
week
didn't-
shows that, for, this was interesting, and I don't quite know where it came from, but for the first 2 months of this fiscal year, according to the income and expenses, there have been highway expenses totaling $92,329.45.
Including payments. Oh, no, it's not.
And is that,
And the balance in that highway account is only $42,000. And I don't know if that 92,329 includes the $64,000 that we spent on Grassy Brook Road on the highway or not. I know we've got $11,000 to spend with Allstate, which is gonna be another issue coming up shortly. So I would almost suggest that we confer with the assistant treasurer,
yeah.
see where we stand, look at what's outstanding, and then maybe decide whether we've got enough room to do that.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know if that sounds good or not.
Yes, it does. I'm feeling like that has to include the paving. Our fiscal year started over July 1st.
Right.
Right.
There's no way we could have spent.
I'm not sure.
Maybe things, there's certain budgets, the paving has its own budget.
Right,
Uh,
right.
You know, there's
Yeah,
certain
purchase stuff has a different. budget.
culverts have a certain budget.
Mhm.
I know that I purchased, culverts, WW. I bought in 6 culverts that, the value is $3,300. I purchased a pallet of asphalt, coal patch in the bags to have in stock for potholing.
Okay.
That was with sealer to apply that potholes was like $1,500.
Well, this is isolated just for it's out purchase.
Contract service,
Contract services.
yeah.
Where are we at with that? That's really.
I don't remember.
And I know that we've also purchased a lot of ditch stone.
Yeah, we had a lot of
Which
material for the road.
So maybe this should all get kind of.
All right, I'm gonna put it on the agenda to discuss at the next select board meeting.
Okay,
And meanwhile, if you wanted to look around and find out about scheduling
I will,
and check on costs, that would be good.
I'll
And
check availability. The day cost for. Well, 3:30.
can I delegate the checking with the treasurer, because I think it's more timely and I'm not gonna be available.
Judy, I'll be there 3 hours.
Stan, would you?
Yeah,
All right, so would you just
Thank
check
you.
with the treasurer about the contact services
I'll look forward to it.
for that, that would be much appreciated. And if you don't mind, I'm just gonna throw this in here. We did receive a hydraulic study for
Yes, yeah.
from Scott Jensen. And we are meeting online. We're meeting at a conference call to discuss with FEMA and its representatives, the road commissioner, the road supervisor, myself, this particular hydraulic study and installing 36-inch culvert. We're gonna be finding out some more information about what they're covering or not covering.
Right, yeah. Yeah, so we've already purchased these culverts and then was told by FEMA, we had to have a hydraulic study before we install it.
So we got that.
So the hydraulic study confirms that 3-foot diameter is the right size for the replacement. And this is for a year ago in July 29th.
29th, yep.
That the flood, the main part of the flood cause, or not the main, but
Took out the pavement.
took out the pavement.
On putting that.
This one culvert was a big issue.
All right, we're gonna follow up on that. Anything else, or we're gonna move on because it's getting late?
No, I'm gonna stop right there.
Thank you, Mark, you did a wonderful job with the machine.
Yes.
Yeah, you sure did.
I couldn't believe how fast you were going. It's like unbelievable. This guy's a master.
It was very handy. Well,
Not as handy as the one the year before, because you felt this one, you couldn't maneuver it.
well,
that's the
that 360-degree wrist helps
Yeah.
water. That, but still, I'm not gonna knock the machine for that one. little-
Gotta get something permanent.
Yeah, it more than improved itself. Very helpful.
All right, we're gonna move on now to Stan Nova. You had some reporting that you can share with us on highways and grants, please.
Yes, there were some questions we had at the last two select boards about expenses and contracts, et cetera, with Wyndham Regional. And there was a concern or an interest in knowing, have we been reimbursed for expenses that we've incurred to date? The quarterly reports and some of the other things. So I tried to pin those down for this evening and you have some answers. We can be reimbursed for Chris Campy for any of the expenses that we have incurred to date in this early phase of the salt and sand shed project. It will only be when we actually start the construction of the shed that the 80-20 match scenario will apply. I am not aware that we have, as a town, applied for any reimbursement for the monies that were paid from the very start. In terms of they being reimbursed 100%. I have been involved with 2 billing periods, and together they total roughly $550. I think one's 200 something, one's 300 something, so they're between 250 and 600. And in an email that I received from Margot Dia, she has suggested that after the third quarter of this year, that when we pay that she then solicit the state of Vermont for full reimbursement for what the town has paid through this year. So I would suggest that if we need to take a vote on it, that sounds plausible. Every time she does something, she bills us on an hourly rate, which is up there. So for us to say do it, and she said, if you want me to do it now, I'll do it now. But I suggest to wait. And I think there's merit to that, because we don't need to pay $120 if it's $60 an hour, which is pretty darn close to what it is in fact, rather than just paying $60. And we're not hurting for $550.
Right. We don't need to rush
So-
that done twice.
Right, so either by consensus or vote, I would suggest that we wait until after the third quarter, which will be, I I guess, starting October.
I don't think we need to have a vote to accept reimbursement.
Okay, well, but to act in the manner.
But you can
But-
bring it to our attention, I
Sure,
think that's
sure.
appropriate.
So I followed up on that.
Good.
We get 100% reimbursement and,
Good.
and through the process that we just discussed, we can do that. And I will follow up with her to ask if in fact, or Melissa, to see if there's record, which indicates that we've been reimbursed in the past. Because if we haven't been, then we've got a couple $3,000 that we could have coming our way. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Let's see. I know since I've been doing this in March, I'm not aware of the town having received any monies recently as a reimbursement, so it may be a larger number. Okay. Now, when Dot and I, so that's one issue. When Dot and I had a conversation with V-Trans and Wyndham Regional back late April, early May, and we were trying to figure out what this was gonna cost us, there was a comment made by, again, Margot Dia, that we're gonna have to renegotiate the contract. So, after having attended the Wyndham Regional Commission meeting last week, and hearing that, and seeing that they have contracts with each town for work performed, I asked them if there was in fact a management agreement between Brookline and Wyndham Regional that we're operating under in regard to the sand salt shed. And anything else you might be doing? She says, yes. Well, I asked her, she did send me a copy of it today, and it expired on June 30th of this year. So right now, we're operating without a contract. So we do need to renew it. The problem is this was 5 pages long, and I only read the first page before I got other emails that needed to be responded to. So I don't have a summary for you as to what the fees totally were, how they operate, whether it's in fact a percentage of the amount of the garage cost. Remember we were talking about that back when? There is a fee dollar amount, I think it was $13,200, that was to be paid at acceptance of the contract. Now, whether that has been paid, whether it's straightened, I don't know. So there's a little bit I gotta look into. Okay. Let's see, that was one. And I think that's it, for that issue. So the next issue is, I have not heard anything from Allstate Construction on that $11,000. Have you heard anything?
You know, me and Archie both talked, last night and neither of us heard anything.
How would you like to approach that? Would you like me to email them, call them, or do you wanna do that, however?
Yeah, whatever you tell me.
This is for Puckett Mountain paving,
Yeah,
and the date, the due
And
date is
the
October
intersection
15th.
I believe so, yes.
Okay, yeah.
The last time I had talked to the actual appraisal guy, he was planning to bring in a crew on a Saturday. to do it. But, you know, that's over a month ago.
Yeah, I'm having the same thing with the painter of the steeple, because they missed their window. And now other things are in there, so we're ending up being at the end of the season. So I would ask if you would follow up, since you had some good contact with them initially, and share with us what you hear, if we just get, if there is a schedule.
Yeah, we'll do that, and I'll send you an email,
Okay.
advising on what that is.
All right.
Let's see, okay, Dot, I joined Dot in the health officer role here in town as a deputy. And the Dot has done all the things to apply for proper filing and paperwork. In yesterday's mail, got a inch thick envelope with
Okay.
all kinds of stuff near it, including, did they send you any toys or gifts?
Yes, you get a little badge.
Oh, okay, well, there's something in there, I thought, what in the world's this? So I got that. And it's just an observation, if I may. I noted that whatever discussion we had in the past about that bridge loan for the possible $200,000.
Yes.
I see that it's now being handled differently on the balance sheet. The balance is $90,000. I just don't know whether the 10 was in fact taken out of that asset and put somewhere else. So it's a question that should be asked of Melissa.
What do you say, what do you mean it's 10?
Well, as you know, it was a 20-year payout. And as of last December, when we were having our budget discussion back in December or late November, the semi-annual, the amount of 10 and the interest that was due for 6 months on that total loan amount was paid.
Right.
And at the time, I said to the treasurer guy who was working closely with the other gentleman that was treasurer, about the fact that it would seem to me that the balance should be going down now. Because we only are gonna have after that payment, maybe 9 years at $10,000. And so I noticed in the financial statements that the balance of that asset for the bond repayment is now at $90,000, whereas my prior tenure of 2 times on the select board and last year, that balance was at $100,000 through that entire period.
So what's
So-
the payment with it?
Could be, because we raised by taxes, we.
Well, yes and no. It was somewhere close to a $200,000 bond. I looked in the paper this afternoon and the state approved a bond to us of $375,000. But the estimates didn't total that. I found one document where there was a cost of $165 for part of the job and another $120 or $25 for the other part of the job. So it was totaling $280,000. The town had to come up with a percentage of that. The bottom line is we didn't use the full $200,000. We ended up with roughly a balance outstanding, as I understand it, and I don't think I'm incorrect, of roughly $100,000. So the first 10 years of that, we had to raise the $10,000 that we used. We now are at the point where we've paid for what we used, and there's an asset balance of $100,000. From here on out, we don't have to raise or bill the citizens for that additional $10,000 because it's already there in an asset account just sitting there. Now, the other thing that's come up about it is whether or not we can use that money for things like an excavator or road work, or whatever, and I could not find this afternoon the paperwork that defined that specifically. So it's somewhere else in his office,
Something to.
something to be researched.
Excellent, excellent. All right.
Now, the question is, when we paid it, I know, but something needs to be looked at. It really needs to be looked at, then we gotta ask the question. And that is, where did the $10,000 that was in the $100,000 at the end of June go?
Yeah.
We already paid the payment last November.
Right.
It's not due until this coming November, December. We gotta find out where that went. No, this is well after that. So that's all I have to offer.
Dan, could I back up, when you were talking salt sand shed? I just wanted to say I heard some information about Wardsboro. And maybe we could talk to them to feel there's need, but, so the state, these blueprints that the state, puts out for these salt sand sheds, it's a model that they approved, that they put out there with their specs and standards. And so when Brookline considered this salt sand shed, they downsized it to, I'd say, like 2/3 of the original blueprints to fit our town. Wardsboro's design, I believe, is exact same as Newfan's, which is exact same as Townsend's. So Wardsboro was planning to build, they don't have a salt shed or a sand shed.
At all.
They do have man-made telephone poles with planks, like we have 4 salt, 1 load of salt fits in there. And their sand just is outside, and they are close to a water stream, river, So they qualified for this grant as well. The rumor I heard was they were gonna start their structure, and their cost estimate is now at over $940,000.
Really?
And because of inflation, and it sounds like they wanna do something different. So I don't know if it'd be worth,
Can I respond to that with something else at this time? That's amazing. What I encountered on the internet over the last 24 hours was that we were being urged to rebid our job and start early next spring. I don't know if you read the email that I sent you, but you're gonna see in there's an email from me saying that based on current pricing and what we had talked about earlier, we were going to wait until early next spring and then reconsider it. They weren't very happy about that. I mean, it was a very yeah, I got that. So I don't, so I basically held them off that day in terms of, I'd like to put it off, and I told them that we're gonna this November check with the Turner firm who did the bid for the monitoring of the materials and the work, and kind of get a feel from their revised estimate as whether prices are up, continuing up, and then we'll know whether or not we want to proceed. Are they did they say they were gonna go ahead and not do something like that?
no, it didn't sound, I mean, I heard it secondhand, so I'm not sure, it didn't sound like that was in there, but it didn't.
Yes. In the budget that we went over with the regional commission, our work was in there, New Things work was in there, Wardsboro's work was in there for the sand and salt check.
Okay.
So it's alive in whatever format that it would. I'm sorry. Thank you for bringing that up, that's interesting.
Sure.
All right, are we ready to move on?
Yep.
Okay, I don't have a report from the town clerk, I keep putting it in here because past practice was that he had time to report things to the select board. So we'll move on to item D, building commissioner report, Bruce.
Okay, oh my God, is Tim Hart's done? I mean, excuse me, and it's done.
The electric.
It's hooked up.
Yeah.
It's all hooked up, he's gonna test it tomorrow morning, should be up and running. When I call Tim Hart, let him know it's done, he knows that it was being done this week. And he will come back down hopefully and give me a demonstration on how to use it, and I'm thinking, if anybody that wants to be a part of it's fine. I'll let everybody know if you wanna be a part of the demonstration.
Please do.
I took the manual home this afternoon to take a look at it before anybody comes in the building and does this with Tim. I would have read it first. And then I'm also gonna ask if Stephanie and Aaron or anybody else from the daycare want to go through this. Because I don't want it all dumped on me that they don't know how to do it or they can't figure it out or anything like that. So I haven't really gotten that coordinated yet with Tim Hart, but that's the next step. The only other thing is that I had an issue with the water system where it appears that the sensor on the left side is broken. On the UV side, it was working. It's on the horizontal rail of the copper pipe before the UV system itself. Mark and I have been working on it. I had Line Well come in early part of last week. They just happened to be coincidentally coming to town first part of the last week, which is when I needed to have some filters. So he dropped off a box of filters, but it was in that process that previous weekend and the prior week that they were running out of water, and it turns out that I think we've got it resolved. But I won't know that until tomorrow. Right now, it's on the other side of the UV system. The one that I wanted to wait till the end of September to strike up, but if that is working, it's been working for a day. So they're not under the bypass, they're under the UV system and the filters. But I have a feeling that I haven't resolved, and Mark and I have been working together about it. He hasn't gotten an update yet. He's gonna get that. But that, I believe, is.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's.
Okay, select board report, chair report, short. Things are moving, we're very, very busy, this is a lot of work, but the health department's doing their job, the dog stuff is getting done. We communicated with, Alta, the disclosure of the bad tire on the tractor, or on the wheeled excavator, to see if we get a response for that, and, I'll keep you all informed. Are there any other reports or discussions that the select board would like to discuss at this time, Stan?
Briefly, when Dot and I held a little conference with a health issue over the weekend. As we were leaving, Guy had mentioned something about what the town's responsibilities are regarding liquor licenses. So I'm wondering if it's something that we could look at, just make general inquiry, whether it be the VLCT or whoever, to see what we need to do, if anything. Maybe nothing, but I would feel comfortable, and it's something we live with as long as the select board's been in operation. I just don't know with this new business that we have, why you see it survive, whether we need to do anything in order to justify.
Stan's referring to wedding venues. So we have several wedding venues in town, and if they serve alcohol, who is the who is licensed to serve that alcohol? If they're not selling it, they're giving it away, whatever. So Guy was asking about that, and
That's,
we don't have.
we have parkway and ADA accessibility. You're talking about.
That's got nothing to do with drinking alcohol in town. It's just simply looking at to see whether or not we have any obligation, responsibility to regulate or monitor.
Oh.
If we are, and I just felt uncomfortable that someone brought it up that it's employed by the town, asking, do we have any jurisdiction over that? Should we
However,
look into it?
I understand that, but there's a lot of things that Guy might bring up that beyond what we can capacity can do as far as homestead rebates and all sorts of stuff like that. So what are you suggesting? You want to pull the LPT and ask that, or
I would,
let's table it, bring it, put it on the agenda, but that would be,
We're in the fourth hour, we really.
okay. Any other? All right. Communications, regular mail, very quickly.
Where are you tomorrow? You know?
Yeah, I was gonna be out of town tomorrow.
Okay.
I don't know, this email's about
Be in town Friday.
Okay.
an effort to provide outreach and education to our town and city partners, Vermont Criminal Justice Council, in conjunction of sending you this information regarding the responsibility when employing or supervising constables. We don't have constables, so I don't think we need to do that. Okay, although I will read it in more detail.
I'll send you a note, Mark.
Okay.
Second piece of mail, town of Brookline, evade and exterminating, nice follow-up. Okay, and third piece of mail, interesting one that I read earlier that came in a week ago, says the WCSU board is pleased to invite individuals interested in participating in the interviewing of our internal candidate for superintendent. So I guess that there's a superintendent change in coming up. We ask that before you commit to participate, please review. So they're looking for a community member for the Newbrook School to participate in the superintendent search.
So WCSU, Anton, William?
WCSU, I don't know.
That's such a supervisor.
It says the board is pleased to invite individuals to participating in the interviewing of our internal candidate for superintendent.
Huh.
Bill Antone is leaving next year.
Okay.
And so they've organized very carefully to conduct a search for his replacement.
Okay.
So I can
Thank
actually
you for
put
that.
this in the letters to